I know.
Yeah, I guess.
Hello and welcome to episode 26 of I almost said talking about gamers. That's not what this is.
What is
Yeah.
that?
This is I don't know what that is. That's not a thing that
What
exists.
is that? That
This-
thing doesn't exist.
This is the Pixel Related podcast, the official podcast of pixelrelated.net. I don't know why I said that.
Yeah. Plug it.
The only podcast Pixel Related. Today is November 13th. It is 3:13 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it's been a while since we've recorded a podcast here. I'm actually going to pull this up to see when the last one we did was. Let's see here. We last did one about mid-October, it looks like. October 22nd is when that bad boy got posted.
Not too bad.
So the last time we podcasted, we talked about the PlayStation VR is the hottest new thing out there. Some various games and whatnot. And in the month since then, oh my God, so much stuff has happened.
Yep, too much stuff.
There's been a stack of games that have come out. We got a ton of stuff to talk about as far as games go.
And that's it.
That's nothing.
That's the only things that have happened.
Nothing console related
at all
whatsoever.
Nothing whatsoever at all.
Nothing election related.
I said sure. Nothing, Gus.
That's definitely not happening. That's not a thing that's going to happen today.
No, we don't want to go down that road.
No. Nope. But we do have Nintendo has finally said what their console is going to be, and it's pretty much exactly what the rumors said it was. It's fine. And then the PlayStation 4 Pro came out, which I know you guys all went out and bought right away. No.
I spent my PlayStation budget.
Yeah, that's true.
The PlayStation VR.
Yep.
And there's some interesting things that's going on with the PlayStation 4 Pro that have come out in the last couple of days since that launched. That seemed pretty crazy. But we're gonna get it started off with games first because, like I said, there is just a ton of games to come out with. I'm gonna start off with a little game that I call Civilization 6, which is the newest game from Firaxis.
Sid Meier's Civilization 6.
Sorry, Sid Meier's out on PC exclusively because there's no way that the game that complicated would work with a controller. It's just not possible.
It wouldn't.
So Adam, tell me about Civilization 6. How you liking it so far?
I've played like one or two matches so far with it. Just the amount of stuff that is out there right now is just kind of overwhelmed me. I think it's really good. I think that it feels like there are a lot more options for dealing with stuff that don't involve just straight up blowing everybody up. Like, it seems like you could actually reasonably do a good like pacifist run with it, because there's all sorts of new stuff. Like, there's a really it seems like really heavy emphasis on religion in this one, and like going out and spreading your religion and bringing everybody together under one world religion.
Which you can actually just name. And
you know what? I realize this is the worst game to talk about right now.
Yeah, I know.
So I love religion when you found a religion as your like you can choose a symbol to designate your religion and you can name it whatever you want to, which I think is really funny and it's really fun. Be able to spread whatever you want it to be. That's actually the first game that I played. That is what I did. Is I was like, I heard that religion was a big new part of it, and so I went and I focused on and got a religious victory. It's like, and it's a whole thing where you make missionary units and you send them to other people's cities and they spread the word of whatever deity you worship at that point. Because it can be whatever you want to. I just picked one of the defaults. I wasn't feeling particularly creative. Otherwise, I would have a good story about like the religion of the cows or whatever that I decided to create. But yeah, I mean, it feels like what I played so far is it feels like it's very, very similar to Civ 5, but with like a bunch of stuff. Like it feels like there's already been like 1 or 2 expansions added onto the game because there is a lot more stuff going on. Like the whole religion thing is a lot more well thought out than it was in the past in Civ 5. They've really changed how the government and stuff like that works, where the government and your civics, as they call it, which is kind of how like the rules of how your civilization runs, is an actual tech tree of its own, just like the science tech tree. So you kind of are aiming for certain governments or aiming for certain civics that you can get a bonus for. Oh, you get more luxury items, or you get happiness if there's a military in your in every city, or
it feels like a less necessary tech tree too. Like that's the other thing that I was noticing with that civic stuff, is it feels like it is way less needed. Like it's all bonus stuff basically. So
yeah,
at a certain point it was like, okay, you've got these civics. Do you want to look down? Like, no, I'm just gonna pick the one that's gonna, I guess, take the longest, because I never felt like that stuff was impacting my game that much.
I think it's ways to like fine tune what you're trying to do, but like I found that I kind of that I liked, and then as I was researching new stuff, I'm like, nah, I don't really want to switch. I feel pretty confident with what I got here, or what I am researching to eventually get to something that I do want. Like doesn't give me anything new that I care about, so it's really just there, and it takes a significantly longer to research those than the actual tech tree, because there are less of those to discover than all the different technologies and stuff like that you're trying to do.
Yeah. I agree. Like this feels like this is it feels like this thing was built out very much from Brave New World, which was, from what I understand, like the big, because I didn't come into Civ 5 until after all those expansions were out. So it sounds like Civ 5 vanilla was maybe not ideal, and it seems like the designer of Brave New World actually took the lead on this one. So that's why I think you probably see a lot of the similarities. Like this feels very much, even I would say more than 5, like this feels like it is a board game. Which they've always kind of felt like that to a degree, like they've always felt like that. But this one, it feels like there are the civics, like that just feels like here's this stat card, and that's fine. Like I think that's totally fine. I think the design of it works very well for different styles, which I've never, like, maybe it's just the way that I used to play them, or maybe that I didn't have the attention, but I definitely felt like there are more options here than go the easy route, blow up every country that you can, and that's the game. I feel like there are legitimate strategies that you can use to get peaceful victories, religious victories. The AI is a little bit weird. I don't know if you've noticed that. I had a match where I was going up against, I don't remember who it was, but they tried to attack me and fought them off. Like, hey, we're gonna have 30 turns of peace. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm gonna go send my army down to take care of these barbarians. And like within 5 moves or so of my army going down there, they were trying again. And then I was like, okay, no, I gotta stop you right now. Like, okay, it's cool, we're cool. And then I would go back down to try to take care of the barbarians that are like, fucking invade. Like every time that I went to take care of this little goddamn group of barbarians. So eventually I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to wipe you out. Like, I'm just going to destroy you. I'm going to obliterate. And then I got fucked over by the barbarians. So,
the barbarians are rough in this game. Like,
they are.
They're pretty rough. Like I feel so. It's interesting that you come back to that Civ 5, because I really liked Civ 5, and almost part of the reason I liked Civ 5 was I got to it before all of the expansions and stuff added onto it, and I almost at a certain level really liked the simplicity of it. because, and I get the people that probably like the Civilization games is like the game that they play for, years and years. They want all the complexity and all the options and stuff like that. Where I kind of got to this one, I'm like, man, there's just too much stuff here. Like, I don't even know what to, like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, I went with religion because I heard religion was the big new thing, and that's kind of interesting. But it got to a point, like, in the later game where it felt like it was just plodding on, and it was taking, like, I'm sending these missionaries to other parts of the world, and it's going to take like 15 turns for them to get to that city they need to capture to get my religious victory. It's like, really nothing else I'm doing. Like, even though I was like taking over the religions of every other civilization, no one was really doing anything to try to stop me or to declare war against me or anything. I kind of just won. Everyone seems like they were okay with it, I guess. I mean, I guess that's a peaceful victory, I guess, right? I mean, it's just,
shining happy people, I guess. Yeah.
Is this going to come to consoles? Like, do they all come to consoles?
No.
They've never come to consoles. I don't think any of them have, at least.
I mean, they had Civilization Revolutions that came out on the 360 and PS3. I'm not sure came to both. But that was kind of a dumbed down version of it, and it's not. It was a fun game. I messed around with it a little bit, but I found it to be a little bit too dumbed down for my taste. But I mean, the thing is, is that this game is so complex that it's hard. I imagine it being really difficult to do with a controller. Like, I don't think it's anything like, it's not like, oh, it's so graphically powerful that the Xbox One or PS4 can handle it. It's not that. I just don't think it's possible with a controller.
It's just all the options.
I also
how you gonna map it. Yeah,
I think like the way that you have to play it too. Like, there are so many charts and menus. Like, I play my PC games on my TV with my computer, like with my keyboard sitting on my couch, and even that I had to go in and modify like the fonts so that I could actually read the stuff. So I think that even like from just a technical point, it would be really tough to bring that over. Like, I know Civilization Revolution 2, I want to say it's on the Vita, but it's also on like iOS and Android.
That was the main push they did for it, was putting it out on mobile.
Mobiles, yeah. That's a good place for it too. I think that's really good. And those games are really fun. Like, as a starter to get into that stuff where you're kind of seeing like, okay, this is how, okay, I have to move my army up here and do this stuff with it. It's very simple, but I think as a primer to Civilization proper, like, it works really well.
Yeah.
I like it. I think Civ 6 is really good. I just really wish I've had more time to invest into it, because it's one of those games, right, where you go, okay, I want to play it for a little bit, and then you realize like, oh, it's 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I have to stop, and then you're like, I just got to make a couple more moves, and then it's like, oh, this is bad. I did it bad here, because those games can last for just so long sometimes.
Yeah. Have you guys ever gone in like a 24-hour game or anything like that? Like, I've heard stories where people are just like, like where they're just on there for like days.
In Civ, no. That bad. No, I would lose it. I think at that point I would just start breaking down completely, because
But it is. I mean, they have that. I mean, they have that thing about just one more turn. That is 100% Civ, and that is still very present in this game. The one game that I played, like I said, the main game that I played so far, I'm about halfway through my second campaign. But the first one I did, it was like, I looked up and it was like, oh, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, holy crap, where did the evening go? Like, what in the world? I will say, I think I've been a bit disappointed by it. I played tons and tons of Civ 4, and in 5 they made a lot of really great improvements. And I think that what 6 is kind of just building on, like, those improvements. Like, as far as how military works and stuff like that. It used to be in the old games where you would just be chugging out unit after unit after unit, and you would roll up to cities with just this massive stack of like 40 guys. And now they have it in Civ 5 and then in 6, so it's just one guy per square for the most part. So it's like you have to be a lot more strategic about it, and like hills and line of sight stuff, it matters a lot more. And they got that great in Civ 5, and so it still works really well in Civ 6. That they've tried to do more of a focus on some of the kind of other ways, like they tried to kind of overhaul how the diplomacy works. They've put more stuff into like spies and religion, stuff that usually has been like the first expansion for Civ 5, I think, was their religion. It was Gods and Kings. I think that was the first one.
Yeah.
So it's usually stuff that they reserve for the expansions is kind of already built out and already well done in Civ 6. So it does feel like you're getting a lot of meat of game here because there's already a lot of that stuff built in. I'm kind of curious to see what they will do for expansions, because I gotta imagine that's how these games is making their money, is the people that are not buying a $60 game but buying a $100 and $120 game, something like that. But it's real good. It's a great game to sit down and play, listen to podcasts, watch like a TV show or a movie that you don't need to pay super close attention to, stuff like that. Because it's a game that you can have something else on the background and kind of half paying attention to Civ 6 and half paying attention to the other thing. So
I think you played more of it than I did. How do you compare this to Beyond Earth?
Beyond Earth was kind of mediocre, I think. Like I think Beyond Earth had really cool ideas, but ultimately it was just civilization, and then instead of barbarians, it was aliens. Like, I think that, but then they have, they can't do as much because they're not pulling from like historical things, or like they can't pull the same way Civilization could. But I don't think they expanded enough on some of the alien stuff that they could have done with Beyond Earth, because I was super excited for Beyond Earth, and I was pretty disappointed by it, I think, overall compared to Civilization. I wanted it to be more than just the exact same game, just with kind of like a facelift, is what it really ended up being.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because that was the last Civilization game. Like that's the other weird part about how Civilization has worked, is like the last Civ game was Beyond Earth, and then 5 came out in 2012.
Yeah,
they spaced them the hell apart. So I mean,
but they have those expansions, like they had Gods and Kings.
Yeah.
They had Brave New World. I want to say there was a third one in there at some point. Like they do stuff with those games to give them lives and keep people coming back to it. So
yeah. Let's see. 2010 is when Civ 5 came out. So like, it does seem a little bit weird that they just kind of took Civ 5 and just built it out a bit more. You would kind of expect a bit more. But I do think like that game is in the same way that a lot of people considered like Civ 5 to be built out in those expansions. Like I really wonder how far they're going to go with the 4 big expansions, they said.
And what that stuff will consist of, because Civ 5, a lot of people complained about kind of the same thing people complained about with the Sims games back in the day, where it was like you would end like Sims 2 or whatever with all this stuff. You have pets and you could go out on dates and all this crazy stuff, and then Sims 3 came out and it was this tiny little experience without all that stuff because they wanted to save it for the expansion so they could sell you more money. And so I think Civ 5, people complained about that a lot compared to what Civ 4 ended with all the expansions, is that it did take a lot of the stuff that people were used to in Civ 4. And I don't think that's as much of a problem going from the end game of Civ 5 with all the expansions to Civ 6. I think they've kept a lot of that stuff. And then that'll open up those expansions to do all kinds of crazy stuff. One thing that was, I will say, it's super intimidating about this game is when you fire it up, there's like 20 civilizations in this game. And I'm just like, I don't even know where to start. I was just like God had a button that was just like, pick one at random, because I was like, I don't even know what to do.
And they all have different abilities and different like passive stats and shit like that. Yeah,
some are better suited for war, some are better suited for science. Some, it's like, it's such a deep, giant game that will just kind of slowly pick my way through various games of it as I have time, or as I'm not playing some of the other stuff that's a little bit more faster paced, exciting stuff. Civ has definitely got its niche, but it can be a little slow and even a little boring sometimes, but you just keep on doing that next turn. So, see, the other 4 games that are on the list here are the exact opposite of. I mean, they're all
instant shoot, man.
Yeah, I mean, not really. Dishonored's not really that, but let's
stab man.
Let's roll. Let's get Gus talking a little bit here. Gus, why don't you talk about Gears of War? Gears of War 4.
Ah, yes, Gears of War 4. Man, it's been a hot minute since I played that, but okay.
Yeah,
so
Gears of War 4, the 5th game in the Gears of War series.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's weird, right? So yeah, it came out, I want to say a few weeks ago at this point. And when it first came out, or when they first announced it, I mean, I was kind of skeptical since it's not going to be Epic Games. Now it's the Coalition, and we know how Gears of War Judgment came out. But I was more scared because what happened with Halo 5. I mean, even though I liked Halo 4 when 343 seemed to do their own thing on the Halo thing, that didn't come out good. But I'm happy to report that Gears of War 4 is really good. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I wasn't really keeping up with the trailers too much before it came out. I like to go into like darkness mode before a game I really want to play comes out. So I knew nothing about the story. So going in that way, I think they did a good job with the story. I mean, it seems the story overall seems a little bit more scaled down, I would say. Like, it doesn't seem like as epic or as world changing as what we saw like in Gears of War 2 and 3. But I think it's a good start for a new trilogy. I liked like the new characters that they introduced, the JD and what's his name, Dell. See, I already forgot
Dell and Kate.
Kate, yeah, I think of those 3, I think the only one that they kind of seemed to give like a major personality to was Kate. JD and Dell seem just a little generic at this point. Like nothing really stands out about them. But as far as like changing it up, I mean, they got rid of the control scheme of Judgment, which is a good thing. So they went back to the classic Gears style.
Wait, you have to remind me of that because I played Judgment. What was different about Judgment?
They kind of made it more like other shooters where it was like you would hold down Y to like switch weapons.
Oh, was it? Oh God, I forgot that.
Yeah, like they got rid of the whole like up, down, left, right to like switch weapons. It was like totally different. And I think they made the right call in going back to that classic Gears gameplay. And then since I wasn't really following the story when the first type of enemy comes out, I mean, I don't want to say anything because we're talking about the campaign, but I wasn't expecting that kind of enemy to come into play. Like I was already knew about the swarm, so I knew that there was going to be some sort of locust-y type enemy, but they added this other enemy, which, I mean, it's sort of the same fight style, but it was a little different, and it was a little cool playing against it. It reminded me a lot about like that game. I don't know if y'all played it, Binary Domain. Did y'all ever play that game?
No.
No.
Okay, was that the one where you could like yell into your controller to make or to your headset?
I just know it's got a big bow. That's what I know about Binary.
Yeah, you could like command your teammates, I think, with your headset. Yeah, but the enemies in that type of game are similar to what you played through the first half.
I don't think it's spoiling it too much to say that you're fighting robots. It's like the very first mission. You don't actually see the swarm until like halfway through the campaign.
Yeah, it's really late game. Yeah, you're basically fighting like robot versions of Gears for like the first half of the game. So I thought that was cool. I thought the way that they dropped them in and stuff was at least a little different. It was a little like change up to the game.
Yeah, it's nice to chainsaw something and have sparks fly instead of blood fly everywhere.
Yeah, and then I mean they added the weapons from the robots, which is always good. I mean, more variety for the weapons.
Yeah.
And I like the way they ended it. I think a lot of people were kind of like didn't like it that it was a cliffhanger, but I think they ended it on a pretty big revelation, and I think it's good going for the future. Now, as far as Horde goes, I mean, I haven't touched Horde at all. I'm not really a competitive guy. I mean, a co-op guy. I'm more competitive. So I was playing the versus mode a lot, which is just your basic Gears multiplayer, which is fine. I mean, it plays sometimes. In the past Gears games, it became just like shotgun roll, and it was very a lot of people would say it depended who hosted the game. There's always a bit of lag.
Yep.
Yep, and
You could always tell who the host was because they'd be like, "Oh, that guy's like 10-1."
yeah, I mean, you still get. It still seems like you get a little bit of that, but supposedly the games are on dedicated servers, so it seems a lot more fair. So yeah, no, I was pleasantly surprised. I'm looking forward to Gears of War 5. I think they did a good job setting up this new trilogy, I guess, right? Because they are going to come out with 5 and 6. I'm pretty sure they are. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this one's probably doing good enough. I mean,
Yeah.
the campaign. I mean, I feel like it's probably similar in scope to like the first Gears of War. Whereas like by the time you got to Gears of War 2 and Gears of War 3, like it was full on war. Like you were riding on that giant tank and taking out tanks and stuff like that. Like doing some pretty crazy epic stuff. Where I think this one is kind of more of a low-key, more of a personal story.
Yeah.
If JD is the son of Marcus Phoenix, and if you've watched any of the trailers and stuff like that, you know Marcus Phoenix is in this game. The trailers are actually really bad because they spoil like the main thing that happens in the middle of the game, which is really dumb that people put that in trailers, but whatever. So don't watch the trailer.
Yeah, see, I skipped all those trailers. I was like, I don't want to see anymore. I was like, I just want to experience it.
You're better off that for sure. So I played through the entire campaign in co-op with Robbie Joe.
Talking about gamers.
He was exactly. He was playing on PC. I was playing on Xbox.
Oh wow.
Kind of see out that the Xbox player anything as far as everything we talked about from my side and from his side, we never knew that we weren't playing on the same thing. Like it worked.
That's awesome.
Worked flawlessly. It worked seamlessly. Robbie kept talking about how beautiful the game looked. I think it looks really good on Xbox One. I don't have it on. I didn't buy it. I just rented it, so I don't. I can't tell you what it looks like from the PC side, but I think it looked really good.
Yeah.
I think I like what they've done with the new characters. I think you can tell that they have smarter people working, or maybe it's just a different style they're working for, because you can tell like there is definitely like someone played Uncharted and was like, we need to have the same type of Uncharted banter between these new characters. Like JD seems like like exactly like a Nathan Drake ripoff, not as charming or anything like that, but it's what they're going for.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part it works well. Like they don't dive into like anything too crazy. It's like JD and Dell are clearly best friends, and they've been through some stuff together, and so there's a good amount of jabbing back and forth between them. And then there's like a little bit of a love interest thing going on with JD and Kate, but it never gets to the point that anything's spelled out, or it's just kind of is what it is. The campaign's got some great moments to it. I didn't really like, so they've changed the way the horde works in this game, where there is a little box I call the fabricator that basically you run up to and you build things, wires or turrets or whatever it is, and then you go and place them on the map. And they put 2 or 3 parts in the campaign where you just like that is what you're doing for that mission or that level. Is you have a fabricator, you're building defenses, and you're kind of just hanging out and defending it. And I thought those parts in the campaign I don't know. I mean, even playing in co-op, I felt like they didn't seem like they fit with the rest of the game, which is pretty much straightforward Gears action where you're running through level doing various things. They got a couple, they got a sequence where you're on a vehicle of sorts, kind of calling back to the first Gears of War. Like they got some interesting stuff in there. But like these weird like horde mode sections during the middle of the game just seemed kind of odd. Like they didn't really fit.
Yeah. It seemed like they put them in there more like training, I guess, like just to get the player familiar with it.
Yeah. So it's like, hey, when you go into horde mode, you'll know what's going on here and you know what you're doing. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. I loved that the way the game ends, the very final level is pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
It's something that I was calling for from the very first level, where I was like, they better do this by the end of the game or I'm going to be really upset. And then they did exactly the thing that I wanted them to do. And I was very happy. I won't spoil what it is, but it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not a competitive guy just in general. But the only competitive I do is Crucible in Destiny or Overwatch. So I didn't touch that in Gears. I did mess around with some horde mode, and it feels pretty much the same. They have these there's 5 different classes now in Horde mode that you can pick from. But they're pretty minimal differences between them. It's basically they have little perks. Like if you are a scout, then as you kill guys, you pick up energy. That's what you have to bring back to the fabricator to make new things and whatnot, new defenses. So the scout picks up a little bit more energy when he picks it up. Or the engineer can repair stuff at a lower cost and build stuff at a lower cost. Or the heavy is better at like rocket launchers and like it's more ammo for heavy weapons, like things like that. Like they're all tiny little things, but generally it's it's just kind of like you get a little bit of perk and then you have slightly different starting weapons, but then you can still pick up and take new weapons or do whatever you want to as far as that's concerned. Seems fine. I had some real bad luck just trying to play random games with people, which is what I did a ton of for Gears of War 2 and 3. Is I just did tons of pickup games, just matchmaking on Xbox Live and stuff like that, and even putting it on casual. I was just getting like the garbage of the internet, like just like terrible at playing the game. Like the 3 matches that I tried to do, and in all 3 matches, one person dropped before it even starts, and it doesn't backfill. So if you have down to 4 people, that's it. You're down to 4 people for the entirety of however long you think you're going to survive.
Man, that sucks.
And so and then it's like, oh, then you have one guy who's like, we've clearly moved our fabricator over here and we're building defenses in this area, and then there's a guy on the other side of the map just doing whatever, and he goes down every single round and he gets killed, and then he leaves, and then you're stuck with 3 people, and then it's like, and then you get to a particularly bad boss wave, which is still one of the best ideas that Gears put in for Horde mode that they did in 3, which is having a boss wave every 10 rounds, but then you get a bad boss wave, and then the other guy leaves, and then you're stuck with 2 people, and it's like, well, we're not going to make it for the next 30 waves with 2 people. So then I just have bad experiences with Horde. It seems fine. It seems fun. But they put the new bosses from the campaign are obviously in Horde mode. And there's some pretty interesting new bosses that they've constructed for the Swarm.
Yeah, it's still weird saying that, right? Swarm.
It's Swarm. It's the weirdest one is the Swarmac that they call. Like that's just a weird like could you just call it a Brumac? Like it looks the same. Whatever. But no, I think Horde mode was kind of disappointing. But I definitely enjoyed my time in the campaign. I was surprised to see that there isn't 4-player co-op, which is what they added in Gears of War 3. It's back down to just 2.
Yeah. And that's kind of weird.
Yeah, there's stuff and whatnot that goes in the story where you have less than 4 players. So I don't know if that was the reason behind it, or if that was 4-player co-op was too taxing for the campaign or whatever that looks like. But I was kind of surprised to see that that's not in here for Gears of War 4. After that was one of the coolest things to do in Gears of War 3 was to go through the campaign in 4-player co-op.
Yeah, I would assume it was they didn't want to take the system to its max by having 4 people.
Yeah.
I don't know the specifics about that, but I would assume that. But yeah, like half the game, you're really only about 3 people.
Yeah, it's
around.
Those main 3. You'll get people that come and go in your party. There's a Dizzy replacement right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Who joins you and then leaves, and then other people come and go as the thing goes on. But yeah, I maybe could have just been a story perspective, but like we don't want to have to just randomly create another person to be part of this trio of people. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's Gears of War 4. I would definitely recommend checking it out. Like I said, I've been disappointed by Horde. It sounds like the competitive's okay.
Yeah.
But I think you either know you like Gears multiplayer or you don't. I think at this point.
Yeah.
They've done a whole slew of changes to like how you get items, and there's perks, and it's like you get credits and then you buy stuff and then you're buying cards. Like have you gone into any of that stuff? What's going on? I have no idea what's going on with that stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of I guess it's kind of like Overwatch, where you get a certain amount of credits for every match that you play, depending how well you do. And then you can use those credits to open their version of a loot box. I forget what it's called, but they have different versions of these boxes. And you open them up.
Do they just call it a gear box? No, that's not.
I think I think they're called packs. So they have like elite packs that cost a little bit more of the in-game currency, and those will give you like random characters or skins for your um for your weapons. But then they'll have like cheaper packs that all they give you is like a set of 5 random bounties that will give you more experience if you collect if you collect the bounty for either horde or for multiplayer. It's just another way to level up.
No, interesting.
Yeah, I think the first game. Well, I remember the first game that I saw it in. I believe was Battlefield 3, where for shooters, where they would give you like battlefield packs or something like that.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all that stuff is fully entrenched in the horde mode as well. But it seems like you're not. At least a couple matches I didn't get any credits or anything like that until I hit level 10. And
oh wow. Yeah.
so,
Okay.
Maybe you only get credits for doing rank ups or whatever, or playing versus mode. Then I don't know.
Yeah, that's weird. I would assume that they would give you some credits for going through each wave, but yeah, if you have to go through 10 waves to get credits, I mean that's kind of
No, it's not even that. I didn't get any credits until I hit level 10 as like level 10 of my player experience.
Oh, really? Okay,
like,
wow.
Yeah, because I probably completed up to 20 waves 2 times and like up to 10 the third time, and I only got 500 credits when I hit level 10 as my character.
Yeah, I mean, I could be getting confused too because the version that I bought gave me like I think it was like 10 or 15 like packs that I just opened up like right away.
Oh, did you get the super ultimate like play it 4 days early version? Is that what you got?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I got that bad boy off Amazon, 20% off. So it was the game and the season pass, and they gave you all those extra elite packs. So I think no regular price was like $100, but I got it for like 80. So I was like, that's good. I'll take it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's always the thing. Like with those games, like I did that for Destiny before it came out. Where the first one is, I just went ahead and bought the Guardian edition, I think is what it was called. It's just like it has the season pass for the first 3 DLCs, and I'm like, I'm just gonna be in on this game. Like I'm gonna buy I'm just gonna assume that I'm gonna buy the season pass anyway, so I might as well just get it, and I'll get a little bit extra stuff and get a slight discount.
Yeah, just go all in from the beginning.
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes make up your mind to just do it.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's Gears of War 4.
It's good. It's good, people.
Yeah, it's good. I definitely would recommend playing it, especially if you're a fan of the let's just say the first 3 Gears of War games.
Yes.
They definitely do some cool callbacks and stuff like that. Returning characters.
So as somebody who the most Gears of War I've played is Judgment, and I liked that game, so I shouldn't play this one, is what you're saying.
No, I'm saying you should play the actual Gears of War games.
If you play Judgment, now's the time to play 1, 2, and 3. Get caught up.
I mean, I have them all because I got that Ultimate pack.
Okay.
When I bought my Xbox One, so I have all of them.
Yeah, you also get the same thing for playing Gears of War 4. Xbox will send you codes to own all the other games as well.
Yeah, I have like 3 copies of each game.
That's what I was like. I'm like, I didn't actually have Judgment yet, so that was cool, I guess. But I'm I already have 1, 2, and 3, so I guess I just have extra codes for 1, 2, and 3. So if someone hears this and they want codes for 1, 2, and 3, I'll send it to you, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, Adam, go play 1, 2, and 3. They're great. If you want to check out Gears, those are good games. I don't know. I haven't been back to play Gears 1, but you probably would just play the Ultimate Edition or whatever they call it.
Well, yeah, I'm just gonna play the Ultimate one.
Yeah, to play the pretty version, I gotta imagine the original one probably
looks rough at this point.
Pretty old and rough.
Yeah,
I remember, like, I totally remember before that game launched. Like, do you guys remember those first like trailers they had for that game, where it was like this fucking mind blowing shit?
For the original,
like, it just looked for the original.
Yeah,
at
the time it was like, incredible. What? Yeah,
that's the game.
What the fuck is this?
That sold me on my Xbox 360 was that game. Like that is the reason I bought my Xbox 360 was to play Gears of War.
Yeah, and I think that happened for a lot of people.
And even not having an HD TV, because I didn't have one at that point, I was still blown away by how pretty that game was.
Yep.
So imagine my mind blown when I finally did get an HD TV like a year later or something like that.
Yeah. The Ultimate Edition is that game's pretty. That game's they remade that one really good.
Good.
So yeah, you should definitely play that
at some point.
Yeah, After all these games are out of the way.
Yeah, I mean,
it's bundled with another game that has 30 games, the Rare Replay. So obviously, that's the better value.
Rare Replay. There's a lot of games in that are terrible.
Yep.
Except for nostalgia purposes.
Yeah.
So hey, speaking of games that might be terrible, actually don't know. How was Call of Duty? I've actually heard the campaign. I've heard the multiplayer is terrible and that the campaign's pretty good. So Adam, what's going on?
Yeah. So I bought the $70-$80 version.
Oh, you bastard!
With the original. So I'll talk about both of them. Infinite Warfare. That campaign is ridiculously good. Like it is the kind of spectacle shooter that you would expect from a Call of Duty game, but at the same point, they've put a lot of time into character development, which is something they haven't done a lot of recently. Like that was one of the big issues I had when I was playing the Black Ops 3 campaign, was that characters just were rough military men. Like in Advanced Warfighter, at least you got Kevin Spacey being Kevin Spacey, so you had an interesting character. But here, like the actual characters are, I think, really well built out. It feels like you have this actual crew of different characters. They do that stuff that Call of Duty does, where a lot of those characters are dead by the end of it. But this one, it feels a lot more. It feels a lot heavier, like that than I would say any of them have, because they spend such a good amount of time building those characters out. So that's great. I think them actually playing around with space, like that whole. Fuck it, let's go to space. Like that actually works out really well for how you play the campaign. So like there's a lot of portions where you're in they call them jackals. They're like their little spaceships. And you go around, fly around, and then you will transition into like landing on this ship, going in, blowing it up, and then getting out through the ship. Like the transitions are that is still, I think, a really cool and a lot of times underutilized things in game, where it's like you have these big transitions from like a space battle to a land battle, and then they do a lot of good stuff too with just moving in space. There's a lot of missions where you'll have to like go, like I think there's one that's, I want to say it's like on Saturn, where there's a base that's like hidden in the rings, so you have to like use this grappling hook to like go between all the little rocks to try to like stealth into this base in space. And that's like a side mission. That's the other thing. They've added in side missions, so you can just kind of blow through the main campaign very fast. But they have these side missions which unlock like new perks for the single player, new loadout stuff for that. So I actually think like the whole campaign is really well built. The one thing that is really, I would say, bad is the villains in this game. So Kit Harington is the bad guy, and he delivers about the same amount of intensity as he does in Game of Thrones, which is not much, let's say. He's a very boring guy. Like he's a very boring villain. He's just they end up, they just end up very mad, and for not really any, they give a little bit of a reason for it, being like that Earth kind of siphons these resources from these outer planets, these outer colonies, and they're mad about it. But in the end, it just never really feels like they're that into it. Like they just end up saying like Mars a them a lot, and that's kind of it. Like that's their motivation. Yeah, they're not great, but I do think like the actual spectacle of playing through it is really good. It actually reminded me a lot of the original Killzone story, like that kind of story of like, oh, here are these people that we kind of threw off into space, and we just kind of let them fend for themselves, and now they're really pissed and they're coming back to attack us. So like, and they do it, I think, better than Killzone did for a lot of it.
I was like, so like Killzone, were you playing as the people that were coming back and were pissed, or were you the people that threw them off? I honestly don't remember.
I think you're the ones
Killzone,
that threw
you actually
them
played
off.
as both.
Well, okay.
Really? No, Killzone, the original Killzone,
guys.
you had like you had like you were the, I guess, the Earth or whatever their stand-in for Earth was. You had that force, and then you had like one guy who was a former operative for the Helgen.
Okay.
But the difference was that they had Brian Cox as a villain in that game, and Brian Cox is the fucking best.
He makes a good villain. He makes a good villain.
He is really good. Like he threw all in on it, and they had him for the second one, and it was great.
God,
Kit Harington just a lot of times is like, we will take your home and we will burn it down, and you're gonna be really upset. You're gonna be so mad when we blow your shit up. Like that's
not a bad Jon Snow voice. I just want to point that out.
I mean, I've watched a lot of Game of Thrones.
It's pretty good Jon Snow.
You're gonna be so mad. Like, yeah, he doesn't work too well, but I think everything else works fucking great for the storyline. And everything that I have to say good about the single player is like completely erased by the multiplayer. The multiplayer is bad. They don't do any of that space shit. It's all the same. Here's a map. Have you been playing these games for the past 5 years or so? If not, you're fucked. You're gonna get destroyed. They've opened up the floodgates in a really gross way on their microtransactions. So now what you do is every match you earn your XP, but XP kind of doesn't mean much. It just kind of like unlocks, hey, you can now have different loadouts. If you like after you level up, you'll also get like a certain amount of keys, and then if you get like 10 keys, you get what's called a common box, and if you get 30, you can unlock a rare box, and those boxes contain weapons.
Yeah,
and those are the better weapons.
That's the way the multiplayer goes now.
So
apparently
it just you are paying to win. Like it was to the point where like the day after, and look, I understand there are people who invest a lot of time into those games and they really love them, and that is the thing they will play. So I'm not saying that I didn't encounter that, but there were some where it was the weapons they were using were categorically more powerful than what I had. And there's no matchmaking system that is designed to match you up in that way. So it becomes a thing where if you did not pay for this, you're fucked. Like you're super fucked. It was weird.
It's still all random drops though from those boxes, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. So it's the Overwatch problem, but that if you get lucky, you're playing better, you know?
Yeah, at least Overwatch and Gears is like cosmetic or skins. Like, not freaking weapons.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of how cosmetic stuff works with that, but I understand it. I can get behind it to a degree. But when it starts impacting how you play the game, that becomes a big problem. And I think they introduced this at some point with Black Ops 3. Like, I think they kind of merged that in. So they need to shake that shit up for multiplayer, like in a big way. Because, like, on top of that, like, you have the single player campaign, which has these big zero gravity battles, and you have space fights and shit like that, and none of that translates in. Like, it's the exact same way you were playing basically like Advanced Warfighter. Like, the newest thing they have is the wall run, which that was like 2 games ago they introduced that.
Well, right.
So,
but they gotta do what they gotta do though at that point. Like, right, like the multiplayer, if they push it and move it too far, then it's gonna end up being space Battlefield basically. And people that
end up being Titanfall.
Yeah, or end up being Titanfall. And people that play Call of Duty, unfortunately, want Call of Duty, but it sounds like even for those people that this one's probably not great.
But even I gotta wonder, like, I'm not one of those people who like believes that the numbers are down, so that means the game's a fucking failure. Like, that's not necessarily true. Call of Duty still sold plenty of them, but it's this thing where you can see that at some point they have to shake this up. They have to do something, add some mode to it to just like change up the way you play. Like I did all of this single player stuff for this single player loadout, basically. Like I did all of this shit, like scanned all of these weapons in, got all these upgrades for my ship, and none of that translates over.
Yeah.
It's all determined by these loot boxes. The newest thing they have in there is basically kill confirmed. And you know, like at a certain point like that, I mean, kill confirmed is good, but that's not enough to make it feel like there's an appreciable change for people who are coming into this thing new. I think that eventually that is going to just hit a wall. Like it was days. It was like a day or two, I think, when I went into the multiplayer for the first time, and there were already people who had like prestiged. Like that is
people are crazy.
Super fucked up. Like and the game wasn't trying to matchmake me with people who were lower level. Like I was in a match level 1 against these people, and a lot of them had very clearly paid money because they had like all of the weed shit, and they had all of the, you know, like they had all of this stuff which was tied in with these loot boxes. It's super gross, and it made me super sad because there was a part of me that's like, you know what, I really want to try to get into this. I really want to see what it is that people get so heavily invested with these games, and just immediately it's like, no, you're not going to. You're not that good. You will never be that good.
Well, Adam, if you're looking for a game that to get into that is really good multiplayer, that kind of feels like Call of Duty, might I suggest Titanfall 2?
I thought you were going to say Call of Duty 4.
Oh, yeah, Call of Duty 4.
I did have that too.
Oh yeah, sorry. Before we move on to Titanfall, yeah. So you played Remastered then?
Yeah. I played a bit of it. The campaign looks great. Like it's very much an upgrade. The multiplayer, they've added in some stuff. Nothing like the packs of weapons and stuff, which thank God. But you know, like they've added in kill confirmed and some of the later multiplayer modes with that.
That's cool.
But
cool.
Still, at the base level, is it still like the 3-5-7 kill streaks and like the original guns and all that stuff?
Yeah. Like it's still Call of Duty 4 multiplayer, which is good. Like it's fine. I mean, it's definitely a bit dated.
It's
classic. But
the word you're looking for.
Classic gameplay.
Dated, but yeah, like it's fine. I do really wonder what those servers look like in a couple of months, because right now the only way to actually play that thing is to buy the $80 version of it, and you have to imagine at some point even those people who really like that game are gonna put on pause. So, you know, like there is a part of me that's like, I understand why they did it. It makes sense to them why they did it. I hope at some point they break that thing out, and I think if they want to keep that player base alive, which, hey, maybe they don't. Like, I don't know how much it costs them to upgrade this thing, and maybe they recoup their losses already on it. But you got to imagine that if the player count is lower than what it was with Call of Duty Black Ops 3, like, you got to imagine at some point they just break it out completely.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought the amount of people that are super excited for that Call of Duty, like Call of Duty 4 was the best single player campaign of any of those Call of Duties, I think.
Yeah.
But that multiplayer, I think people forget how old that multiplayer is.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that is before the days of custom kill streaks, and you only had a couple different perks, and they all had to fit in that one slot for whatever that perk is. And, like if I would want to go back and play the multiplayer of any of those games, it would be Modern Warfare 2 or Black Ops. Like,
2 was where I think I put most of my time.
Yeah, I mean, mine was Black Ops, but like I played a crap ton of Modern Warfare 2 as well, and like that's when it's changed, but it hasn't changed such significantly from those ones where Call of Duty 4 was like, this is where they had the idea, and then they realized that idea in Modern Warfare 2 and kind of blew it out from there in Call of Duty. But I would love to go back and play that campaign from Call of Duty 4. and it's probably something that will never happen unless they decide to release it solo, which maybe they will at some point. I don't know.
I think they will. I think like
think
right after Christmas they're gonna release it solo.
I
They're
don't know
gonna
that
get
it'll be
last
that soon, but
holiday.
I think it's like a I think it's like a 6-month thing. At some point, they're going to like. It makes sense if they're going to be like, "Hey, we want to have a midpoint of this year for Call of Duty." So, hey, if you didn't buy Infinite Warfare, here's Call of Duty Remastered, and then also in October, here's the next Call of Duty game proper.
Yeah,
that was going to be from Sledgehammer, I think.
Yeah,
though.
that's Sledgehammer will be the next one. Yeah.
Yeah. So
are they? I was gonna say, are they for sure still releasing one every year? Like, do we know for sure? We're just assuming.
They haven't.
At least until next year.
But they haven't not yet.
Yeah.
Man, so I can't believe they're still in that yearly release cycle.
I mean,
that's
when
crazy.
You have 3 studios working on it, it makes it easier to do.
Yeah, it's crazy also that they have that many studios working on it.
Yeah.
Like, it was a thing where it's like, oh fuck, that's right, Raven works on these games now, and I think actually Raven designed the single player of this one, if I'm remembering right. Like fuck, Raven works on these games. Sledgehammer works on them. Infinity Ward works on them. Like they have so many people who are working on these things. It's a fucking machine.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Have you guys heard about the nonsense going on the PC version of the
Windows 10 shit?
Yeah, so they have this thing where if you buy it through the Windows 10 store, which it is cheaper on the Windows 10 store by some amount than it is on Steam, but if you buy it through Windows 10, you can only play with people who also bought it through Windows 10.
Yeah.
And from like some screenshots that I've seen on Reddit, it sounds like that player base is about 30 people.
There was one I saw that was like there are currently 2 people playing this.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, number one, don't ever buy your games through the Windows store. Ever. Just don't do that.
No, I mean you can. It's okay. Those are the Xbox Play Anywhere games. Feel free.
Those are going to be fine. Those are going to be fine because you can play them on your Xbox too.
Yeah, and you'll play them with people from Xbox. But oh god, that's. I mean, it sounds like from what Microsoft has said that is a decision on Activision's part to do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure of exactly how that because I think there might be a way, but I wonder if Steam works with that in a certain way that maybe doesn't. Like I don't know. I'm sure that Microsoft is like, yeah, fine, fucking get people playing on our store because we would love that. But I can't actually think of any game that has launched like that, where it's had like a Windows 10 store counterpart to Steam.
I mean,
that has a multiplayer component.
Yeah, I would say there's definitely games
like
that.
Multiplayer component?
No, that's what I'm saying. I think this might be the first big multiplayer one, though, because I mean, I know like Tomb Raider was up there, and I mean, they've had games that have been on the Windows 10 store, but there would be no difference between buying from at Steam and buying it on Windows 10. Yeah, it's got to be something where Windows is like, hey, if it's on us, like you are welcome to use our, what do they call it, the Azure or whatever their server things were called. And Activision was like, sure, and then Steam's like, yeah, it'll be Steamworks with us, and they're like, sure, and it's like, oh yeah, those don't communicate with each other. Yeah, it's awkward.
Crazy.
It's such a fucking weird thing.
There's too many launchers on PC, and it pisses me off. Like
there are, and the problem is that like some of them are just better. Like I actually think that Origin has gotten a lot better than what it used to be.
Yep.
But Ubi's Uplay is still fucking terrible.
Yeah. The Good Old Games one I find to be pretty bad. It's not great. And I wouldn't own anything on there except that's where I have Witcher 3. And it's like, man,
that's right. I mean, that's where I have Witcher 3, and I mean, at least with the Good Old Games one, you can still just opt to download it through a browser. Like, you don't need that to run Witcher 3.
But then you still got like to get the updates and all that. Like, you got other complicated ways then. And yeah, that interface isn't great either.
I have two Witcher 3 files for some reason on my computer, and I don't know if like one is just for the updates or one is the game because they're the exact same size. It's a fucking nightmare. They're really bad.
And I will say, so the Windows 10 store, I don't own much on there, but for one thing I will say for them is that you just downloaded it and it pops that icon for that game on your computer, and that's it. So you just click on that icon and it just launches the game. None of this, oh, let me start up Steam for you real quick so we can play this game. It's just, nope, you just play that game. So that is nice.
To a degree, until you get a game that is like, hey, you can run this game, and no, you can't. Which was what happened with Forza 3. With Forza Horizon 3 for a lot of people. Like, I don't know if you saw any of the stuff with Forza Horizon, but it's like, if you look at the minimum requirements, it's like, you meet them. You can run that game. And then when you actually would load it, it's like, hey, no, you can't run this game. And
I
like,
didn't hear about that. That's
yeah, so like my computer should be able to run Forza Horizon 3 fine. But every time that I load it up, it's like, hey, you can't run this thing. And then when I get in, it's like, hey, no, you actually can't run this thing that well. So it's not great. I mean, there was all that other shit with like Quantum Break too. Like that, they have to get that shit together.
Well, yeah, no, they've had some bad, like the Microsoft stuff on there has been pretty bad. Like I heard that the Gears of War Ultimate Edition was also pretty bad on there. It sounded like Quantum Break had problems. I think Recore was okay, but
yeah.
They need to get that stuff figured out. But I mean, hell, that's the same thing. There's stuff going on with Dishonored 2 on PC where no one can run it well. Like,
well, do you want to just jump right into that since you just brought up Dishonored? Like,
I might as well. I was gonna pivot to Titanfall, but we might as well do Dishonored while I'm at it. So, I have a fine computer. Like, I don't have the top of the line computer. My computer is not quote unquote VR ready or anything like that. My computer's 5 years old, something like that. Whenever BioShock Infinite came out, that's right around the time I built my computer. So I can run this game fine, and I usually go in and I have fraps up so I can see my frame rate, and I mess around with the settings and I figure where I can get a solid frame rate. And at the lowest settings, it's 45 frames per second.
Ooh,
Which is bad for a game. At ultra, like the highest it goes, it's like 2730. And I'm like, what is going on here? And apparently it's a problem for a lot of people. People that have super much more high-end computers and whatnot that I have are similarly, they're maxing out at about 45 frames per second in a lot of cases. And
like, does it I hate to say it, does it seem like it's Arkham Knight levels of that broken?
No, because it's not. That's a problem. It's not broken per se. Like, it just, I think a lot of what people are expecting from this game is you have this monster, computer that you spend $1,500 on or something like that, and you should be able to play 4K max settings, and 60 frames per second, and people are still struggling to hit 60 frames per second on monster PCs at 1080p. And like, I don't have a problem playing a game at 30 frames per second. I would love to play it at 60 because it looks better and it feels better. But I have no problem. I put it at high. I got it running at a pretty solid 30 frames per second, and that's fine enough for me. And it runs well. There's not bad load times or anything like that. It's just there's some optimization stuff that's going on there that's just not right. And it sounds like it's worse for people with AMD cards than people with NVIDIA cards, as is usually the case for PC games.
Yeah. NVIDIA spends that money. And they spend that money out.
So there's weird stuff like that just happens. Like I said, it hasn't affected my experience with Dishonored 2 so far. I did have a weird thing at the beginning of the game where there was some weird like focus blur stuff going on, where there was people that were like, it was a cutscene, but it was like an interactive cutscene where you could move the camera and whatnot. And the Corvo, the whole point of Dishonored 2 is you are playing Emily, which is what do they call her? Countess? Is that what she is? Or
I believe so.
I think they call her Countess. Anyway, she's the ruler of Dunwall, and then Corvo, which is the protagonist from the first game, was the royal protector, also her father, is still the royal protector, and then bad stuff happens, and then you either have to go out killing people, and you get to choose whether you're going to be Corvo or going to be Emily. But at the very first, like the cutscene after like some introductory tutorial stuff, like there was this weird like focus thing going where people that were standing like 15 feet away from me were like blurry and out of focus, and then Corvo, who was right next to me, was in frame and perfectly fine. But like the focus was pointed on those people that were like down the hall talking to me, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I haven't experienced any other time then, so maybe it's just a weird hitch or something like that. So I mean, maybe there's some weird stuff going on, but in the most part, it hasn't affected the game. The game runs fine enough on my computer, and I never expect the games to run perfectly on my computer because I know I need to be building my computer probably in another year or two. Anyways, as PC gaming goes. But so I mean, so some bad stuff happens in Dishonored 2. There is a person going around killing people that are enemies of the state, basically framing that you or someone or Corvo or someone is out there killing, silencing people that are speaking out against the crown. They call the person the crown killer. And so basically you have kind of are setting out to figure out, because obviously you're not the crown killer. I chose to play as Emily because that is a new character. It sounds like it is very much an exclusive thing. You pick right off the bat if you're going to be Emily or if you're going to be Corvo, and it sounds like you're set for that for the entire game.
Wow.
Is
it a different campaign at all, or is it just, hey, I'm playing as a different character?
So I've only played the first 3 missions so far. I haven't gone back to see what happens if you're Corvo. I gotta imagine that some stuff will change. But I mean, I'm sure that they have different powers and stuff like that. I don't know if it actually changes the missions or objectives or anything like that yet. I will get to that at some point.
I'm kind of wondering if it's a Jill or Chris, situation from Resident Evil, like that sort of shit. Like that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would guess, like, just taking a wild stab, not knowing either way. I would imagine it's probably what character do you want to play as, and what set of powers do you want to have access to. Because I mean, from what I've started out with Emily, because Emily has powers now, she doesn't start the game with powers; she obtains them, kind of like what happens to Corvo in the first game. But she has access to slightly different powers than what Corvo had. Corvo had the blink thing where you could point to an area and he would zoom there. Hers is kind of more like an arcing, like grenade throw type thing. So it's a little bit easier to arc and to get onto top of surfaces. She can also use it to pull stuff to her. So if you aim at something that's not solid, it will. Well, I think you have to upgrade it first, but it will just pull her to it instead of pull you to it. So they got some different things on there. She's got some different abilities. But I haven't gotten super far into the game yet. It's Dishonored. It's a Dishonored game as Dishonored can be. I really like Dishonored. I like these types of games, similar to Deus Ex earlier this year, which are very much like, if you want to play this as a stealth game and do the perfect run and not kill everyone, you go for it. If you want to just run around killing everyone, setting off alarms and stuff like that, you can do that as well. I think Dishonored's always done it better, that aspect of it, of if you want to go loud and angry, you can. Because it is an era of swords and, like single-shot pistols and whatnot. It's a little bit easier to actually go into combat because it's just blocking the swords and then parrying and stabbing people and whatnot. And they've even opened that up a little bit now, where it's a little bit easier to get instant kills on people if you block perfectly, where you press block right before they hit you, and then it staggers them, and then you could just go in for an instant kill. Nice. So it feels, I know it's always, and man, the executions in this game are really, like, they're really brutal too. Excuse me. And since it's all first person, it's like right up in your face, where it's like you'll grab them, you'll like chop off their hand and then chop off their head, and then their body will just, it's like it's a brutal stuff that's going on in there. And it's still kind of like the original Dishonored, where it's a little it's a little over stylized a little bit, like it's not trying to be super lifelike. It's definitely got a little bit of style, kind of like the original Dishonored, obviously, kind of like what BioShock Infinite looked like. It's definitely got a little bit of stylization to the characters in there. That I think works really good, fits really well. They still have like giant whale carcasses and all kinds of stuff that really tells you what kind of crazy, not real world that you are in. I'm digging it so far. Like I said, haven't gotten super far into it. Just got to a new area where I have to go track down a character from the first game, Anton Sokolov, which is the big inventor from the first game. So they're definitely
wait. Okay, so Sokolov. You said Sokolov's in this.
Supposedly, I haven't found it yet.
So this is a Metal Gear tie-in then.
I don't get that reference. So
Because there's a character called Sokolov from Metal Gear Solid 3.
okay. See, that's
And so this means that this game is part of the
part of
extended
the
Metal Gear
Solid.
universe.
Okay.
So like this must take place after Rising. Maybe it's before Rising.
I mean, consider it's all swords and very little technology.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some time stuff going on there.
Yeah.
This is the last
Great.
Metal Gear game.
Great. Okay, fine. I'm fully in on Dishonored now. Fuck it. Let's go.
But
Did you ever play the first one, Adam?
No. Well, I played a little bit of it, and just never came back to it. Like, I have the whole thing
definitive edition thing.
Yeah. So I have it. So I'm gonna go back. I think now at this point, at some point when I actually have a little bit of time, to actually go through it, because after going through Deus Ex earlier this year, it kind of made me really want to play another stealth game like that.
Yep.
And I remember Dishonored enough from what I played of it to be like, yeah, I could go for that right now. I could totally be fine with it.
Yeah, Dishonored, it's real good. I don't think it gets to as far as stealth goes, it doesn't get to the depths of like you could there's 20 different ways to tackle this. Like you can go down the sewer, or you can climb in this road. Like I don't think it quite gets that crazy with the level design, but it's very solid. It's much more about the powers, blinking or going into stealth mode and turning into like the size of a rat and going through a tiny little tunnel, or taking over people's minds and then running them through the electric barriers that instantly kills them. Like whatever it is you want to do. They introduced this new, what's clearly going to be a bad guy character, which is this kind of giant robot with huge swords that I do not look forward to facing at some point. They are super intimidating. They kind of look like General Grievous, if you remember that from episode 3. That's kind of what they look like.
Yeah.
Except they're actually intimidating. They're not coughing constantly.
He had four lightsabers. That's the most intimidating.
And he swung them around like he was a blender.
And then he had like a weird voice problem, which was I don't understand. But yeah, obviously 4 of them
Which I don't
intimidating.
understand.
And then he used them like you do like when like you're a kid and you're like, I'm not gonna fight you, but I'm just gonna start swinging my arms at you. And if you walk into my arms, that's on you.
I'm gonna hold my hand right here, and if you walk into my fist, that's okay.
Yeah,
that's your problem.
So yeah, so I mean, I'll like I said, I have to dive into Dishonored a little bit more. What's up with these Friday releases of games? By the way, like it's really throwing me off that they're releasing games on Fridays.
It's the new release day. I think they do that during the holiday season. That there's so many games that come out that they stagger them like Tuesdays and Fridays. I remember.
I have my own. Yeah. I just now
realized when I worked in
that
retail,
Watch Dogs coming out on Tuesday now, and I thought that was another Friday game as well. So
yeah, nah, yeah, no. When I worked in retail, I remember having a lot of games, a lot of major games, like a lot of Call of Duties would come on Friday as well.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense.
Well, maybe not Call of Duty, but some major games, yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, it gives you in theory, if you're working like a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, it gives you the whole weekend to just play the game if you want to. Versus getting it on a Tuesday and going like, all right, I guess I'll try to bust this out like 1 hour a night until the weekend comes.
Yeah,
right.
I get it. Makes sense.
Yep, makes sense.
But yeah, I'll play it and get into a little bit more and check that out. But everything I played of it sounds pretty cool. The rats, like the whole thing with the first game was that there was rats that were causing disease and destroying people. They've now replaced this with these giant flying blood. There's some types of bugs. I forget what they're called. Like blood wasps or something like that.
Locusts. And
very early on, you have to go into a house like infested by them, and that's super scary because they're like the actual wasps themselves are about the size of your fist, like they're huge. And
so are they still tying that into like, hey, if you kill a lot of people, there are going to be more of those?
That seems to be what they're doing here. I mean, okay. I prefer to do my first playthrough as a low chaos run, where I try not to kill people, but which is technically harder, especially because the game has a similar ability from the first one, where if you kill someone, it will turn their bodies to ashes instantly, so you don't have to worry about hiding bodies or anything like that. But if you're not killing them, obviously you have to actually hide the bodies. So yeah, Dishonored 2. It's real good. I need to play some more to see if it holds up to what's going on in the first game, because the first game and the DLC were all really good, and I haven't really gotten to see like what's going on with the main antagonist, what her deal or with it, but it seems pretty interesting so far.
Cool.
I like me some Dishonored. So, sorry. Let's see. The last game that's on our list here, which I tried to talk about earlier, but Adam had to talk about Call of Duty Remastered.
I mean, that's fine. I'll be talking about Titanfall too.
Yeah, so it's Titanfall.
So Gus is probably gonna be talking a lot more about this fucking thing.
So we've all played Titanfall 2.
Yeah.
The first Titanfall I really liked. I thought it was a very solid multiplayer shooter. Did some really interesting things. Titanfall 2 kind of blows the multiplayer stuff even higher, with a bunch more actions, a bunch more modes and stuff like that. And then out of nowhere just drops in a campaign that is kind of insane. Like,
yeah,
in a very good way.
Yeah. Did you finish that campaign?
Oh, most certainly, yes.
Okay. So, yeah.
See, I'm the only person that hasn't played
I just finished it literally right before we recorded. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of pops off there at a certain point.
Well, yeah. So I mean, so the campaign, we're not going to talk a ton about the campaign because I wouldn't want it to be spoiled for me if I hadn't played it yet. But there's a couple. There's 2 levels right in the middle of the campaign that are like Half-Life 2-esque. Like, they are fantastic. Like completely unexpected.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'll just effect and like, there's a game that I would compare that one level to, but if I said what it was, it would kind of spoil the whole thing with it. But it's kind of super crazy. And I also think like the not the final boss. I'm not a big fan of the final boss of this game, but the thing that happens right before you go into that boss fight is pretty cool. It's pretty good what they do with that. That campaign is like really surprising. You know, like I didn't have much expectation for it, and it's still really good.
Yeah, like the weird thing about it is that it starts off and it feels very pedestrian. It's like, all right, so we're crashed on this planet. I'm not a pilot. I'm just a normal guy. Let me go find him. Oh, that guy's dead. Oh, now I'm a pilot. Okay, that's pretty cool. I have to go get some energy cells, shoot some guys along the way. Oh, the wall running, stuff like that. Yep, that still feels pretty good. They do some pretty cool stuff with it. Okay, now I'm going through this factory that's pretty awesome. And you get to the next level and it's like, holy shit, what is going on in this game? This is amazing. Yeah,
it's really cool how they weave in the platforming, like all the wall running and stuff, into the actual game. Like I haven't finished it. Like I'm at the point where you guys are talking about where that those cool things start happening that I'm not going to mention. But from what I've played, it's surprisingly good. It feels more like, it kind of feels like they're getting you ready for the multiplayer, but I appreciate that they have your Titan just like, it feels like he's like extremely overpowered compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
And you can
because he can
out, like, all these enemies.
Yeah. Because I mean you can switch your modes and everything, which is like, that's, I think, super smart, because there are so many different loadouts that you could have for those Titans in the multiplayer that actually playing around with them in single player feels a lot safer than like, hey, I'm trying to learn Scorch, or like Scorch. I think to me was just a bitch to learn in multiplayer, and when I went in and played it in single player, I was like, okay, I get this now. Like, it's maybe not the one that I like, but I understand how it works.
Yeah, well, it does a really good job of mixing up what you're doing through the entire campaign. Like, basically once you finish that first main mission and you have your Titan, like, So it's just gonna be running around in a Titan suit for the rest of the campaign, like. And then it's like pretty quickly, you hit a spot, and it's like, oh, you need to go run off and do something because we can't move any further. That was super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did a good job of mixing and weaving, like when you have your Titan, when you're going to be on foot. It does a good job of dropping like all these weapons that you're going to get to play with before you jump into multiplayer. It's like, in a way, like Titanfall 2 kind of feels like what the original Titanfall should have been. I know a lot of people didn't like it because it didn't have like a campaign. And I think from what I've played, like they did like a surprisingly good job of getting like a really respectable campaign into this game. I don't know how long it is, so I can't speak to that. But from what I've played so far, it's good.
I think it's
like
a
6 or
decent
7
length.
hours.
It's a first-person shooter campaign. I think what I was most excited about with the fact that there's a campaign is they didn't build a campaign because they're like, oh, we have to have a campaign this time. Like they had an idea for what they wanted to do a campaign and then put it into the game instead of like the requirement of having to have a campaign. Like it was very clearly that's like some people out there were like, we got this really cool idea for this one level. Oh yeah, we can fit that. Like we have this other thing with like jumping between all these different, the one with the level with all the solar panels or the radio towers and stuff like that. Yeah. It's like, hey, we're gonna have a bunch of different things. You need to jump from each one back and forth, and like they had really cool ideas for it. It's kind of like a bunch of different vignettes that they just kind of shoved into the story. And they made the brilliant idea of making your Titan an actual character and not just a robot suit that you jump into and shoot people with.
Yeah.
Like very unexpectedly, I had an emotional attachment to BT, and I would not have.
Two robots that I've had here. You have BT, and you have the robot who's in Call of Duty. Fucking both have like way better characters than a lot of other like first-person shooter guys. So fucking crazy. So the multiplayer, like obviously that's the big draw for this. I know, like, Gus, you've played. I think. What level are you with Scorch? Because I saw your Scorch thing that you posted yesterday, and it seemed fucking ridiculous to me.
I mean, I'm not. I think I'm like a level 11 or 12 at this point. And it's funny because I wasn't using Scorch for like a long time because I tried using him right when I jumped into multiplayer, and like you said, like I had a hard time learning him. So I kind of just went off. But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to learn how to use Scorch. And he's like my favorite now. He's like, it's like, if you know how to use Scorch in multiplayer, you can seriously wreck the other team. And it's so fun to do. It's so fun to take out all these Titans. Yeah. I mean, the multiplayer is like, I think it's fantastic. I'm having such a good time with it. They've made some like significant changes to it from the first one. So the biggest thing that they changed is now there's 6 Titans, and in the first one you could kind of mess around with them. You could kind of assign what your main weapon was going to be, that sort of thing, which they took away, and that was kind of iffy on that, but it makes sense because now with the 6 Titans you literally have like 6 different classes. Like you have your sniper in North Star, you have basically like a heavy in Scorch. Ion is basically like your basic assault. You have who else is there? Oh, you got Ronin, so he's like your shotgun melee guy. You have Tone,
Ronin's the one that I've really dug because I just like using shotguns in that game, and so like you have a good mid-range game, but then if they get close to you, you could fuck them up really bad. Like if you get somebody,
a sword, I mean,
you got the sword, you got that melee.
If they're not aware of their environments, like you can get them backed up against a wall and just go to fucking town. Like, it is so satisfying.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think they built these Titan loadouts, each one a little different to cater to how people usually play their multiplayer games. Like, and it totally makes sense. Like, it's really good. I mean, besides that, I don't know if you all noticed, they kind of slowed it down from the first game. It's still fast, but it's a little bit less. It's a little bit more the pilots are still fast, but they're not like super fast like they were in the first one. In the first one, you could literally just run around and just kick people, and like in a blink of an eye. So they kind of scaled that back a little bit. And then the other thing I liked that they got rid of was the burn cards, like which was, I guess, I guess that was kind of cool in the first one, but the way now they kind of just scrapped that entire thing, and now you can customize what they call boosts, so you can have like little, what they call the little tickers that will go after other pilots or other enemies. You can have like a personal turret. You can have a personal shield. I think the last boost that you can get is you can get the smart pistol as like your secondary weapon, which is like completely overpowered.
That part, the smart pistol, man.
Yeah,
man. There's a section of the campaign where they give you the smart pistol, and it is fantastic.
That
thing is
smart
crazy.
Pistol thing is a thing that I was waiting for, because I'm like, I remember the smart pistol, and like in the first game, the smart pistol was, unless you knew what you were doing with it, it was not great. But if you knew what you were doing with it, it was fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they give you the smart pistol at the perfect point in that game, and the shit you do with it is crazy. Like it is so good.
Well, yeah, and in the first game, I remember that very well. It's like it was really easy to just kill grunts and stuff like that with the smart pistol. So it was pretty easy to rack up like easy points. And then then you had to know how to use it a little bit better to actually kill players with it. But hey, single player, it's all just those grunts and stuff like that, and you get to do some amazing stuff with it. I completely forgot that was even a Titanfall thing until that hit in the campaign. And then I was like, oh, that's right, I forgot about this.
Yeah.
That's cool. So the thing I talked about this with you a little bit, Gus, about the burn cards. The problem with the burn cards, I don't think the burn cards by themselves were bad, but at least myself, and from what I understand, a lot of people just don't like the idea of expendable things, like consumables, basically. Stuff that you have to, because I found myself hoarding them, basically, afraid to use them because, then I'm not going to have that anymore. And I would constantly, with the original Titanfall, would constantly have all of my burn cards are full. I can't use any more burn cards. And it's like, but it was still a struggle, just like a mental block to actually use those burn cards in a match. So I do appreciate that they kind of figured out a different way to kind of customize that, just making like a kill streak reward, which was a thing that existed in the first game already. But now they've kind of just changed that and switched it up a little bit. I think that's a good thing. The thing that I thought was really interesting with the multiplayer is how they handle leveling up, because you're not just getting pure experience anymore. You level it up through just doing stuff. Like you get merits for depending on what you do.
Yeah, they call it merits.
Yeah, you need a certain amount of merits to get up to your next level. And I thought that there should be a really interesting way to go about it. So it's like, did you level up your Titan? Because I mean, you are still getting experience. So you're leveling up guns, and you're, through getting kills, you're leveling up your Titan for getting kills. And so you're still progressing towards stuff, but then what your merits are actually affect you going up in level. I think it's a different way to approach that than just pure experience, because it kind of lets you play how you want to play and still be rewarded. And I think that works really well.
I think it also, I think, ends up working out well because of how many things besides other pilots you're going after in that. So like if it was like, you're getting 1 point for a grunt, and you're getting 2 points for a stalker, and that sort of stuff, like I think that would end up feeling like you just have to try to find as many pilots as you can. And still, like, obviously you want to do that. Yeah. But in order to get Titanfall, which is the thing you want, you can still get that by going after all of those grunts, all of those stalkers, and that sort of shit. So it balances it out in a way that I think is really smart. I don't know if either of you guys are like in one of the networks that are on there. I think it's really cool what they've done with the network stuff. So you can have like, so I'm in the Giant Bomb one, and if you are playing like on there at like 8 o'clock.
Happy hour.
Yeah, you get a happy hour
stuff.
And it's like you get 5 merits no matter what. Win or lose, whatever, you get 5 merits. And that's really fucking cool. And I also love the way that like you can just kind of set up this company basically, and hey, are there people in here who want to play? Hit triangle, and you join a match up that somebody's trying to build. like it just makes it really easy to get a group of people together.
Yeah,
Like
I think
it's
they kinda took
so
that.
goddamn well, but it's so smart to do it like that. Like
Yeah.
I cannot believe that more games haven't done that, you know?
I think that's a Battlefield thing too. I know Battlefield has
Is
its
it?
servers thing where they had where you could rent servers and just play with certain
Oh,
people
yeah.
and
Yeah,
certain groups. So I think that's their take on it. But man, I mean, it's like Titanfall 2. Like it, I know that some people don't like the idea of multiplayer against people and having AI in there. But I really like the way that they balance it out, and I really think that most of the game modes are only like 6-on-6, but with all these drones and all these AI characters that they add into there, it becomes like an epic battle every single time, and which is really good because it doesn't mean that it needs to have like a really high player base for it to continue to be epic, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I really like the way that they did that, and I know other games are starting to do that too, but like I don't know, like Timefall 2, it's
Well, and
this.
it spells it out
Mhm.
perfectly for you in you're looking at the modes of which ones have AI and which ones don't.
Yes.
If you think that's a dumb
Yeah.
idea and you want to just play straight up kill, team deathmatch or whatever, like those options are in there as well. Now, I mean, I still think that the best way to play that game is attrition, which is their kind of main mode, although they're pushing that other bounties or whatever it is.
Bounty hunt, yeah.
Bounty hunt, yeah.
Which
I haven't played any of that. All I've done is attrition.
yeah.
And
Which
I'm
we
fine
is
with
a
that.
classic Titanfall. Bounties.
We need to do
Bounty's
some
good.
bounty hunt. We need to do some bounty hunt. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good as well. But I think having that AI, the mobs or whatever you want to call them in there, I think is a really smart addition because even if you suck at that game, you could still be killing stuff and it does the kind of thing like Overwatch is when you get to the end, it doesn't really tell you like how many deaths you got or anything like that. It's kind of just like this is how good you did. It's not just how bad you did.
It also I think it's kind of cool that they give like everybody a rank basically. Like if you're like silver level or gold level, I don't know if there's bronze level in there, but that was actually something that I noticed. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool that they're just grading everybody. Like it's kind of neat, without being like, hey, you fucking suck at this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing I think we kind of have to talk about when we talk about Titan is the whole problem of its launch window. The perceived problem. The perceived problem. So I want to know like what you guys think of them launching Titanfall within a week, basically, like sandwiching it between Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty, because obviously that's a big question that a lot of people are having. There's some people who are like, oh, this game is destined to fail. Think this is a disaster. And I'm just wondering like what you guys think about that whole scheduling thing.
I think unfortunately whenever they were going to put it out, they kind of had not a backlash, but there was kind of a lot of negativity after the first one about people paying the $60 for the multiplayer, and I think a lot of people thought that it got too repetitive and it just wasn't varied enough, like to keep with it. So hopefully, I think people were waiting on reviews for this one, like. To me, it doesn't make sense sandwiching it between Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty, but I think the playstyle is different enough that, I mean, I think it's different enough that people who want it a little bit faster than Battlefield, I think they would gravitate towards this. I know it hasn't really sold that well. Well, that's what I'm hearing, that it hasn't really sold that well. And looking at the server numbers, it doesn't look like there's that many people playing on PS4 at any given time, which really makes me sad because this is like, I don't know, this is one of my favorite games so far this year, especially multiplayer-wise.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
no, go ahead.
I think it's a quality enough game to stand between those two, but it doesn't have the legacy. It's especially coming from EA, sandwich it right up next to EA's other big multiplayer shooter game.
Yeah.
That's really weird on their part to do something like that.
I think it doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but I think from their mind it actually does, because you got to think about it like this. Battlefield 1 was the risky one. this year. Like if you really think about it, like there's a lot of people who love Battlefield 1 and they love that they're doing something different with it. But if you would have said like a year ago, hey, we're gonna make this big World War I shooter, like you want to have something, and oh, we're going to also put it up like at around the same time that Call of Duty's coming out. Like you would want to have something that would appeal to the quote unquote mainstream of people who like their sci-fi shooters. So I think like in that sense, it makes sense. Like Titanfall should have been the one that would make a lot more business sense. It just kind of sucks that I'm not a big fan of the Battlefield playstyle. I've just not been for a really long time. Just the way those games play just doesn't ever click with me. I'm really sad that they kind of cannibalized their own player base by putting that game out before Titanfall, and now there's not as many people who want to play Titanfall.
Yeah,
like Titanfall is such a fucking good game, and the multiplayer, like, man, like when you're going around and you're fucking grappling onto Titans and you're pulling out their cores, and then you just, it's such a good experience. And the other thing that really sucks with it is that so far, at least, there's not really any microtransactions with it. There's not any.
And they're saying all the
true.
DLC, all the maps and stuff like that are going to be free as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, no season pass. Yeah,
Like we could get into a semantic argument about the whole Mountain Dew, Doritos, Buffalo Wild Wings
yeah.
weird fucking mess that they have with that. Like,
hey, by the way,
locking
that stuff is all over Gears of War as well. I want to point out.
Yes, yeah. I forgot about
is
that.
that like,
Yeah, there's
yeah.
Rock. I think it's Rockstar, and there's a couple of places are, but yeah, it's all over Gears as well.
I think it's like Rockstar and Taco Bell and stuff like that.
which I think it kind of tells you what EA was thinking, because they got their Dew and Doritos partnership for Titanfall, and Battlefield 1 had Monster Energy drink. Like there's a bit more popularity, I would guess, between those two than there is Monster. So you got to kind of think that they're
trying to offset.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't.
This is intended to be the competitor for Call of Duty, which Battlefield is always is. I mean, they've always wanted to be Battlefield, a competitor to Call of Duty, but it's not quite the same thing. Like people go to Battlefield for a different reason. Where I think this scratches a very similar itch to what Call of Duty does, and it's also. I mean, it's interesting also in a year that the Call of Duty multiplayer sounds like it's not very good. That you have this game, which is very good, coming out, but it still might not be a big enough name to really push the sales like EA wants it to.
Right. Yeah,
it sucks because it is. I think it's a game that proves that stuff like even the change with the burn cards, like changing that, completely getting rid of like that stuff was so smart of them and so consumer friendly that it makes me really upset that if this game like doesn't do well, like I think there's going to be another Titanfall game. I'm sure there's going to be at least one more. EA has a history of you have to do a few bad games, relative to sales before they'll start shuttering you, I don't think that they're going to be working on the next Battlefield Hardline,
yeah,
like Visceral did. Like Visceral did. But I do wish that maybe somebody there would have had the foresight to say, hey, maybe people are getting kind of sick of this stuff, and maybe we should space this stuff out so that we give this game a March release, which is, I think, what the original Titanfall had. I think it had a March release date.
March, April. Yeah.
It was about 2.5 years ago, March of 2014.
It was like one of those first ones that I think I noticed being in the spring cycle, so I think that helped it out. But then, obviously, the player base left that game super fast, and I hope to God that doesn't happen here, because this game it's so fucking good. It's so good.
I mean, one of the problems with the first Titanfall was the progression. Like the first weapon that they gave you in Titanfall multiplayer was the best weapon to use, like bar none. So like you would progress up and you would unlock other weapons and you could try to get the attachments and whatnot for them, but you were only doing it to be a completionist, because that first weapon, which you already got like the scope and all that stuff for, like when you were like level 5, that was still the best weapon in the game. And so like I think it get to a point where it seems like there wasn't as much reason to keep playing, to keep progressing through there. I'm a little disappointed that Titanfall 2 doesn't have any type of co-op mode like they eventually added to the original Titanfall, because I went back and I tried that out whenever that came out like a year after that game was out or something like that, and that was actually quite fun little co-op mode that they added to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little disappointed that they didn't put that in here, but I think the package that you got here with the campaign, as fantastic as it is, and then very, very solid multiplayer, and they've made the
stuff
changes.
Was always kind of an answer, I always felt like, to that complaint of like there's no story, so they added something in there.
Yeah,
but yeah, it would still be, and I gotta wonder, like they've said like, hey, new maps are not going to be charged for, but I wonder if they put out something like that they go, okay, well this is $10, $15, $20, whatever that ends up being.
Maybe.
I'm hoping when they drop new maps, maybe they're going to specifically like make them for some sort of co-op mode, and at that point they'll update the game and add it in there. Yeah. That's what I'm hoping anyways.
I do really like this trend that's starting to happen where multiplayer maps are free, because I always hated the idea of the map packs from back in the days of Halo and Call of Modern Warfare and stuff like that, where you're basically segmenting your player base every time a map pack comes out between the people who bought it and the people that didn't. And so with games like Halo and Gears and Titanfall that are just it's all just free. You just have the map packs. The updates are free. You can pay us in other ways. Except Titanfall doesn't have any microtransactions at this point.
Yet. I think you can see a point where they go, okay, we're going to make those. What's the thing that you can use to like unlock stuff early? Like I'm sure at some point they'll make that available.
Oh, sure. Yeah, they might at some point. Yeah,
and then they'll be like, hey, now you can unlock everything early, and as opposed to it like, okay, you have to just get this from the Arbiter gift or whatever that thing is called.
Advocate. The Advocate. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Titanfall 2, really good. I go back and forth if it's my favorite multiplayer this year with Overwatch, because those are my top 2 games. But yeah, I wish more people were playing it. It makes me sad.
Yeah. Well,
everyone go buy it.
And if nothing else, toss it a rental or a Redbox or something like that to check out that single player, because that single player is fantastic.
Yeah.
I was shocked how much I enjoyed that single player campaign. Wow.
Yeah.
So, I think that's all the games that we have written down to talk about. So that's it. There's nothing else that's happened. No other new consoles that were announced or released or anything.
Wait, Kyle, didn't you hear? There's a new Nintendo console that is coming out in March. It's called the Nintendo Switch.
So, okay. Well, first of all, that name's gonna have to grow on me, because that seems like a pretty awful name.
Really?
But then again,
so was the Wii.
The Wii,
I know.
The Wii was also an awful name, and that grew on me over time. So I will allow it for the moment. Everything else about the Nintendo Switch, though, has me so excited. Like, I love the idea of what they were trying to do with the Nintendo Switch. And it's not like I don't necessarily care about bringing it onto an airplane and putting the stand up and using I don't necessarily care about that. I just like the idea of unifying the Nintendo platform, so all of the games are on one device, and then how you want to play it, whether you prefer to play it mobile, you prefer to play it on a TV, you can do that. I gave up a long time ago thinking that Game Freak was ever going to make an actual console Pokemon game. So now the next one will have to be. They have no choice. It will have to be a console game, even if it's a mobile game.
The Pokemon.
It will have to be. Everything they're doing, it just seems like a great idea. They're doing a similar bump up in power, which isn't really that big of a deal because Nintendo's games tend to look pretty awesome anyways. But if it's going to come out and be about equal with the Xbox One and the PS4, which I think from what the early specs are saying is somewhere in between those two, Although that's before
That's
the Pro
fine.
and the Scorpio and all that stuff
Yeah.
exists.
That's fine. That's
But you
fine.
know, but I mean, that trailer was showing stuff like Skyrim Remastered was on there, and like I mean, it's showing that they're at least trying to court the third party people again. Whether or not that will actually happen is hard to say.
Yeah, that's always the
Well, I mean, Bethesda did come out and say like we've made no announcements about Skyrim on the Wii, Nintendo Switch.
And why would
you ever think that there's going to be a Skyrim on the Nintendo Switch? Also, if your big push is that you can run Skyrim, I don't know that I would go that you've got the most powerful console.
Yeah,
well, sure, but you know what? That's I mean, A, that I'm sure that's Skyrim Remastered, and B, like that's probably saying that Skyrim Remastered will be like a launch title for the Nintendo Switch when it comes out. So if you've ever wanted to play, Skyrim, mobile, now you'll have the ability to.
Yeah.
If I ever wanted to play, Batman Arkham City, on my with my electric gloves.
Oh God! Do you remember that painful interview that they did with Reggie about Arkham City on Wii U when they were trying to ask him what was different about it compared to the old ones? Oh God, that was
no. I don't think I ever saw that one.
Oh, it was just like I was it Jeff Keighley? I don't remember who it was that was like so nothing's really changed, and it's like, well, no, we have the gamepad that lets you swap your inventory, like so nothing's really added though. And it's like, no, we. Painful. There's hints of a new 3D Mario that's coming out for the Nintendo Switch.
Sounds like it is probably gonna be a launch title. Like I think also like Let's Play Video Games, Laura Dale over there has done like a fantastic job reporting. Just go there and look at all their stuff for this, because every day it seems like they've got new stuff about this console. Like sounds like that Mario game is basically done. It sounds like there's probably going to be a reissue of like Mario Kart 8 and Smash Brothers for this thing.
Cool.
There's probably going to be a reissue of Pokken, which just seems really weird because that game was not great.
They also showed Splatoon was one of the games in that highlight reel. There's looking like there's going to be some good stuff. I mean, obviously Zelda's supposed to be coming around that same point, probably also a launch title or very shortly after the launch of the Switch.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I hope so.
With some pretty like you could be launching with the 3D Mario and a Zelda game
right at launch. Yeah.
That would be insane if that actually happened. In addition to whatever
I would be so fucking happy if that was the case, because And I think that they're doing a better job at selling the idea of this console to people. Like that pitch video they showed, I think, sets it really, really just straight up. Hey, you want to play your Nintendo games? Do you want to play them on the go? Okay, just lift the thing out, pop the things on there, and you're good to go. And then you can bring it back home, and you can play that exact same game on your TV. It's not like this bullshit that we had with the Wii U, where it's like, okay, well, you can kind of play it portably, but only in the same house. And if there's a wall, it's going to block it. It's. I think that this could be like, it's probably not going to be the same thing as like the Wii, but it could be, a good enough seller, let's say. And if the past few days have said anything about Nintendo, it's that everything they make sells out within seconds. So
Jesus.
Yeah, that Nintendo Mini. That's so sad.
I got like one of the three.
Did you really? Damn.
Yeah. They were scheduled to go on to Amazon, and I had the page open. And I don't think it ever actually said specifically, hey, buy this new. But if you went into their new and used section, it actually was listed on there.
Wow.
I was looking at it. I was looking at it on Amazon yesterday, and it has like 1 star for reviews on there. All the reviews are like, this is bullshit that I can't get this. And it's like, I don't think you guys understand how reviews work.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, like look, the point of it is they're pissed. They want to send this message to Nintendo. I think it's really ridiculous that Nintendo still, since the Amiibo problem, still hasn't figured out a good way to ensure that this shit is coming out on time.
Yeah.
But
so I mean, and that scares me about the Nintendo Switch, because if it's launching with a Mario and a Zelda, damn it, I'm gonna want one the day that thing comes out.
right,
And I better be able to freaking get that. That's all I'm saying. Like, I'm gonna be pissed.
I do want to know what the price is going to be on it, because
Yeah,
because pitching it as a portable Nintendo thing, I think that could be an issue. So in the case of me and my fiance, we're looking at it and we're going, realistically, we're probably going to want to have 2 of these things.
oh Jesus.
One for each of us.
Adam, you're insane.
Yeah.
Like no. So I'll put it like this. So every couple of years, we end up taking trips out to visit her family out in Albuquerque. That is a driving trip. So like, yeah, if it's a portable thing and it's within reason, like if it's at that $200-300 mark that like the 3DS was, I think that
Like
makes it a lot
250.
easier.
Yeah.
But I think if it goes much higher than that, it's like, oh, this is going to be really tough for us to use in this proposed mobile way, because we're not going to split a single mobile device, a single handheld device between the both of us. That's
get
just
one
not going to fucking
controller,
happen.
She gets the other controller. You can pop up your NK217. Everything will be great.
That little tiny controller thing looks terrible. I will say that. Like the
Yeah.
little tiny ant controller that they showed for, hey, you want to play basketball, but you don't want to be playing basketball when you're at the basketball field. Get your also basketball field. Like you want to play basketball at the basketball field.
Sports.
Sports,
like that was actually totally not intended, but I was like,
oh yeah, no,
let's go with it.
there's some cringy parts of that, like the whole like this like antisocial person bringing over her Nintendo when she's invited to the rooftop party. Like that's
Karen with their fucking Nintendo again.
There's some stuff going on there. No,
Karen, stop bringing over your goddamn Marios. We want to have a discussion like real adults.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of questions around this, though. I mean, yeah, there's the price point. What is that going to look like? Like, I mean, it's like 300, 350, 400. Like, where is that going to end up at? I don't know. I mean,
$299 max. It has to be $299 max.
I could easily see it being at least 350.
I know, and that's what scares me, because they're going to shoot themselves in the foot if they do that.
I think it also depends, though, on like what they include with that. Like, do you have to buy the TV stand separately? Because realistically, there are going to be people who are like me who want to just use it as a portable thing.
Yeah,
and they don't
not do that.
Have a need, like how like, yeah,
no charge.
I do wonder what this shit looks like, and we're not gonna know until at least next year.
Yeah. January,
I think that
something they have a date set for it already when they're announcing more stuff.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I've really been agitated with this whole thing, is this messaging shit was bad. Like I remember like that trailer came out and I was talking with people about it, and I just go, yeah, that's gonna be the last time you're gonna see anything about that this year. And they're like, no, they can't be doing that. It's like, no, you will not see anything else for that fucking thing for the rest of the year. And as it turns out, yeah, you're totally not going to see anything else for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and there has been little tidbits that have come out, like they talked about the size of the screen, like it's the same size as the Wii U gamepad, I guess. Like they've talked about little bits here and there, but yeah, we're not going to know anything concrete until January. But I mean, and there's price point to it. There is like, what is the battery life of that little screen? Like
there's a million things. There's launch lineup, price. What is what do the games look like? Like, do they take a hit when they're in that mode, or do they look relatively similar? Because I think they said it's gonna be like a 720p screen, so obviously it's not gonna look as good as putting it onto your just said puberty there. It's not gonna look as good as putting it onto your screen at home.
Yeah, like what
there are, I think, a lot of
what do they do for backwards compatibility? Like Nintendo's been one of the best as far as backwards compatibility goes.
Notoriously,
and
notoriously, they are known for their look. Maybe there's a way that I could put this CD into like a container, right? And then you can just pop that into there, and you can make it like a disc that just works universally across like all media, like a universal media disc.
I don't.
I think that could work perfectly. I don't see what could be wrong with it.
Yeah, because they're going to cartridges, right? Which cartridges is a cool idea. And supposedly they can put like 30 gigabytes or 40 gigabytes on a cartridge now, which blows my mind. But okay,
Is it a cartridge? I think I read something about it being like on a card. Does anyone else heard that?
I mean it's
Like,
I don't know. I just saw the word card and I was like, what the hell is Nintendo doing?
actually, I mean, basically, it's not a disc. I mean, whatever that actually means is another thing. But
Yeah.
it is not a disc. It is some type of physical media that's not optical.
SD-esque card, I would guess.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's what they meant.
But
I mean,
but that means that this thing does not have a disc reader on it. So a bunch of the Wii U games I have aren't going to work on it. That's kind of sad
no.
because I like a bunch of Wii U
Yeah, that's
games.
not gonna work.
So
yeah,
like,
it
like,
means that a lot of shit is getting sold back.
right,
at
exactly.
At a certain point, it's like, well, does it really make sense for me to have most of these games if they're just going to be put out again on console?
And they're going to have to re-release Super Mario Maker, Mario Kart, Splatoon, or they're going to have sequels or whatever that looks like.
God, that's going to be the third release of Mario Maker.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. Like, there's the one for the 3DS. There's the original one. There's that one, and it's been like what, a year since that games came out. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's like I've actually held off on. I'm like at this point, I'm like I'm not going to buy any more Wii U games until I hear more of what that looks like. Like if you like, it's like, if I own it digitally, well, maybe that just work automatically then. Like
hopefully they figured that out.
Kind of like how it works.
I'm
on
guessing
Xbox
not,
One and
though.
Xbox 360. Like
I'm guessing not, because if they're saying that like if these are gonna be enhanced versions, because like the Mario Kart footage they showed had like King Boo in it, and he's not in any of the DLCs.
Yep.
Got to imagine that you just have to buy it new, and that is kind of gross. You know?
And then you got to look at like virtual console stuff as well. Like virtual console stuff, that stuff better come over. Like that's awful if virtual console stuff doesn't come over to the Nintendo Switch. Like
I just want like a good legitimate way to like get all of the old Nintendo stuff at a reasonable price.
Right.
Because virtual console games have always been fucking overpriced. And that's why something like the NES Mini appeals to a lot of people, is like, look, I could buy each of these games for between $5 and $10 each, or I could just get this thing for $60 and get 30 of them.
Right. Or you can just download some stuff on your computer and it'd be free. And...
I mean, look, I've been fucking around with the Dolphin emulation like the past few weeks, and like you got to have a good solution, because the Dolphin emulation has gotten pretty fucking good at this point. Like I can play that stuff. I can play that stuff really well if the packs download right. But I mean, that's a minor inconvenience to what could be. And then that also brings up, I think, another weird question. If this is going to be their handheld solution, like, do they re-release 3DS stuff? Do they release DS stuff? Like, what do they do?
What happens
to
entire Pokemon market? Sun and Moon that is going to come out about 6 months away from this thing that is, I mean, they're not going to say it's a replacement for the 3DS, but for most intents and purposes, it's intended to be a replacement for the 3DS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The 3DS just might have a longer life cycle until they discontinue it. Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't see, and like looking at the 3DS lineup, like it's the Wii U. I mean, the Wii U holiday lineup is just a toss. Like it's terrible. But the 3DS launch lineup is not much better. So I have to imagine this is them going, okay, we gotta pull back on it. We're gonna put out our Pokemon game. And then aside from that, we've got Mario Party on there, and then we've got a re-release of Woolly World in February rather. So this definitely feels like this is not just the break for the Wii U, but this is the break for all of it. And that's kind of scary because there's so much shit that I've gotten on my 3DS that I'm going to be afraid to lose that stuff. And what the hell happens with that? What happens with your Wii U games? Like, it's such a
hell. I mean, maybe they just have a spot that you can put a 3DS cartridge in. I mean, freaking the DS had a spot you could put a Game Boy Advance cartridge in it. Maybe it'll just be the same thing.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Maybe there'll be an adapter or something like that. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe Nintendo could be cool for once. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Nintendo's generally pretty cool about that. But
about that stuff, there's a lot of things they're not cool about.
I mean, hell, the Wii had GameCube controller ports on it and read the little tiny mini disc thing. Like,
oh yeah.
Like, to a ridiculous extent, Nintendo is friendly to backwards compatibility. But this might be the time where they just say they cut it off and say no.
I saw a thing that was like, yeah, they're gonna re-release Smash Brothers Wii U for this, but all the Smash players are like, hey, but can I use a GameCube controller on it?
I mean, right now,
because like that was the thing that got a lot of people. Like, I remember that fucking GameCube adapter thing just being impossible to find.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Still
and they confirmed like there's going to be amiibo stuff because of course there is. They've invested too much into it at this point.
I mean, they are releasing new amiibos to this day still. My daughter.
Yeah, I got a Waluigi and a new one.
I would say my daughter's favorite character is Rosalina, and Rosalina was impossible to find. And then they just re-released Rosalina with the new Mario Party DS coming out. So now I own a Rosalina. Now I own a Rosalina amiibo because, of course.
I got a Waluigi one, and because I mean Waluigi #1, but also I got a Boo one, and that one actually might be the best one because that one glows in the dark.
Boo is the best.
Boo's pretty great.
Boo is pretty fucking good. It's good, and then like they're obviously like they're still doing support. Like we didn't talk about it. There's this whole Animal Crossing amiibo update. They are fully invested in the amiibo market at this point. I mean, there's going to be hell in a couple weeks. I think is when they're putting out their new Legend of Zelda ones, which has like an old 8-bit Link amiibo, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean they got that stuff. What do they call it? Toys to Life.
Yeah.
That stuff's got to be slowing down. I mean, Disney Infinity's dead. I never really felt like the Lego one took off that well.
No, I feel like I've seen every time that they've done that stuff. I feel like I've seen like, except for oddly enough, like the packs that are like ones that I think most people will be interested in. Like those are the only ones that I ever feel like I see sold out anywhere. Like here's this Back to the Future one, or I think there's gonna be like a Gremlins one too. But I think for the most part, I've never seen the actual packs of those like unavailable.
No, I see. Yeah, there always seems like they're full. I'm sad too. That Lego Dimensions game, if that wasn't one of those crappy like buy all these extra packs game, that game just looked like it could be super cool. If it was just like, hey, it's a mishmash of just all the stuff everywhere, and it's just a regular old Lego game like that, that would be pretty amazing. But yeah, whatever. So yeah, Nintendo Switch. I mean, there's a lot of questions out there, but unless something ridiculous comes out, I intend to be there day one to buy one, because they're finally doing something that I am ready to wholesale to get into, kind of mashing everything together into one thing.
Yep,
yeah.
Looks cool.
So yeah, so I think the last little bit that we were going to talk about here, and we're not going to talk about too long because none of us bought one, but that's the PlayStation 4 Pro launched on Thursday, randomly that on a Thursday, not a Friday or a Tuesday, but so yeah, I mean none of us got it. I don't think any of us are intending to get it. I mean, I don't even have a 4K TV yet.
No, me neither.
It sounds like that's if you don't have a PS4 already, or you have a 4K TV, like that's the only really good reason to get this at this point.
Also, but then the scary things is things are starting to come out now over the weekend from Digital Foundry, where some games are actually running worse if you don't have if you don't have a 4K TV, because it's like upscaling it and then downscaling it again. Like they're talking about The Last of Us, Tomb Raider, that games that are actually running, like in theory they look better, but they are running at lower frames per second than PlayStation 4 counterpart. Because they are doing more like super sampling and anti-aliasing and stuff like that, but then still downscaling them to 1080p if you don't have a. So like people are saying like they still run at lower frames per second if you have a 4K TV, but at least you're benefiting from that other stuff that it's doing it. But it's like if you just have a normal 1080p display, it sounds like some of those games are actually worse now.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Which is like, well, it means for like the big thing about The Last of Us was one that seemed the most egregious to me, because the big thing about that one coming out on the PS4 was that it was, for the most part, like close to a solid 60s you could get, which that game did not run great on PlayStation 3. And now if they're back to, well, yeah, we can run it in like 4K, but then it's going to be lower frames per second. But then if you don't have a 4K, like the whole PlayStation 4 Pro thing just seems like a mess. It's like an absolute mess. And it's just, it's like they probably figured it out at some point, but it's like if you're going to be making games and it's like you have to basically plan for every situation that might happen. Do they have are they running a normal TV? Do they have 4K? Do they have HDR? Do they have HDR on a normal TV or HDR on a 4K TV? Like, and then you have to like turn on or turn off various different things to have the best product for whatever. Like, because like I was out of perfect world. It's like, oh hey, you got a game that ran at 30 frames per second on a normal 1080p, so you can play it at 1080p at 60 frames per second now. But now it might just be like, instead of choosing the frames per second, they're going to try to make it 4K, even though you can't see it in 4K. Like, they got some stuff to do.
That sounds like too much like having a PC where you got to turn up stuff and turn down stuff, and I don't want to deal with that.
And that's fine, because on PC, you're the person in control of it, where in consoles, it's the developer that's in control of it, so it's completely up to whether they are put in at the time to do that. But it does sound like it's going against the whole thing that was in those like leaked technical specifications about the PS4 Pro or the Neo at that point, where it was like where they were saying it has to run at a better frame per second than the original game, and it sounds like there's a couple instances of games out there that are just flat out not doing that yet. And maybe it's bugs, maybe it's bad patches, or I mean I don't know, but it's not a good like first couple days for PlayStation 4 Pro, because if you're buying a PS4 Pro, like that's the reason you're getting it, right? Like you're trying to get that like extra little bit to make your games look that much prettier or run that much better. I think Deus Ex was the other one that they were talking about that had some instances where it was like 20 frames a second, 25 frames a second in some parts, and and that's on the PS4 Pro. And granted, from what I've heard, that game didn't like. I think it worked fine on the PS4. That's how I played it. But it definitely had some parts that you could see it bogging down at. But you think on the PS4 Pro, it should not do that.
Yeah.
So they got some.
Yeah.
They got some
I think Xbox is just sitting back right now, just watching.
Yeah, they're taking notes. They're like, all right, don't fuck that up. Don't. Okay, now we need to make sure that's right.
I do wonder if that's if the launch of the Scorpio is gonna help them at all, though. Like, I mean, obviously they're launching it at a later time, so you got to imagine the amount of 4K TVs out there is gonna be better. But at the same point, if you still have the Xbox One.
I mean, if they can hit their true 4K gaming like they're saying they're going to do, because it sounds like with like a couple exceptions, PS4 Pro is not doing that at all. Like it's not doing 4K. I want to say Rise of the Tomb Raider, they're saying is running at 4K. They're having some frame rate problems with it, but it is running at like true 4K, which I gotta imagine that game looks gorgeous at 4K because that's a good looking game to begin with. But like, they're not really able to do that for the majority of the games. And if Xbox can actually do that, then this, I mean, it might be too little too late, but it does flip-flop the whole power struggle that's currently going on in this generation of consoles. Because right now the PS4 is decidedly stronger than the Xbox One. And if that does flip, that could start leaning towards Xbox's way.
It could, but it also... does that matter as much? I gotta wonder if that matters as much to like the normal non people who are so involved with it like we are. You know, like I don't know that matters as much.
Because people would point to it and tell you the main reason that PS4 or one of the main reasons the PS4 started winning this console generation was that flat out fact, it was $100 cheaper than the Xbox One when they launched.
Yep.
Right.
And that's what the majority of people look at. Like, oh, you got 2 PS4s, which one's cheaper? I'll take that one. Yep.
And now that we've got close to price parity with it, it's going to be the thing where are most of your friends playing their games?
Yep. And
like
a lot of those have already had PS4s because that's what happened.
Yeah. Like that's the same. It's the exact same thing that Microsoft did with 360. You know, like they started out cheaper, better, easier to use console, and then it just became a thing of, hey, everybody's over there. Now, granted, the PS3 was a bit shit at the beginning.
Yeah,
it was pretty bad.
And up until the point that the PS4 came out, was also pretty shitty with like multiplayer and online services and party chats and.
I would say that like right now they're both not doing great with that stuff. Like neither the Xbox One or the PS4 I think has been extremely impressive with how their with their approach to online and their approach to look. Okay, this is a sidebar. Yesterday, bought Mafia 3, got it home, put the disc in, let the disc install. Great, let's go to play it. Fucking 30 minutes later, after the goddamn thing had to install, I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going to play this tonight. Like, bullshit, this thing is not ready to actually play.
You got to you got to plan ahead to play your games. Like,
yeah, got to download the updates.
Games right now. That's, I mean,
like, I'm sure that it sounds like the PC version is not great, but God, I just hope they don't have to put up with that, you know. And I think that's across both consoles, and I'm sure that it's gonna fucking continue.
Yeah. No, I had that same thing with Gears. Like I have 2 Xboxes, and I had it installed on one, and then I was gonna go play it on the other one, and I'm like, I was gonna play Robbie, continue our co-op campaign, and I'm like, oh no, I'm supposed to play with Robbie in like 15 minutes. I don't have time to put that game in there and have it be ready to go that fast. Like I just know that that's not possible. So it's like, all right, I'll play it on the other one, I guess, because. Yeah, I mean, PC's not out of that realm either. Like when Dishonored unlocked on Wednesday night, because I pre-ordered it, so I got it a day early. I sat and played Civilization for 20 minutes while Dishonored unlocked in the background, which was unpacking the download that I already downloaded.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, I mean, that's a very like I preloaded it and I was ready to, you know, there's stuff that goes into there, but it's like it's not, you know, nothing is how giant these games are nowadays. You know, they all have to be installed on the console. Yeah. Nothing's running from disk anymore. It's you think there would be
also
better
side note, let's be honest here. I know it's a marketing term, but you didn't get Dishonored a day early. Everybody else played Dishonored a day late. Like let's not like I know they're pushing that whole thing of like you can play it a day early. It's not a day early. You're just pushing people back a day who didn't pre-order this thing. And we didn't talk at all about the whole Bethesda thing that's happened, but you should really wait on reviews.
Oh no,
don't
know,
just pre-order games. I'm not saying you specifically, but we didn't talk at all about the Bethesda thing. I don't even really want to get into that because
yeah, let's not get into that.
But I think that the whole marketing jargon has just kind of become insane, and it's like I quote unquote played Forza Horizon 3 or 4 days early, but really I paid $100 that I wouldn't play it late.
Gus got the Gears of War 3 days early, 4 days early too. You know?
Yeah.
No, I mean, so speak for myself. With like a heavy heart, I was like, should I wait for reviews or should I just get Dishonored? I was like, Green Man Gaming had a particularly good deal on it at that moment. And I was just like, and I did it, and I don't feel good about it. I don't like doing that with games. Mm-hmm. And so far, it seems like it's worked out okay. And I did get to see a little bit of early buzz where people saying that it sounded like it was pretty good. But I was scared. But I've been there before. I pre-ordered Brink, okay? I've been there.
Brink.
We've all had.
I pre-ordered Colonial Marines. Like we all have our mistakes that
I don't.
we make.
Yeah,
but,
everyone has their game. I don't. Brink is by far my worst. Colonial Marines is pretty bad. That might be worse than Brink. I don't know.
I mean, like, yeah, Colonial Marines, the whole. But that's also okay. God, I don't want to get into it, but that's why.
No.
Like the Dishonored thing especially is why having reviews out at release day are important. I'll just say, like, it's important to have informed customers out there. And the whole PC shit that's going on, I think if I was going out to buy Dishonored and I found that out, I would probably wait.
Yeah. I'm usually pretty lucky with that stuff, so I probably still wouldn't have. But
also, you have 2 Xboxes. Like we just kind of glossed over that. You have 2 Xbox Ones.
Yeah.
Did you get an S or are they both OG Xboxes?
Nah, they're OG Xboxes. My dad bought one, and then he was gonna sell it, and I was like, "How much are you selling it for?" And he was like, $250, but I'll give it to you for $200. And I was like, "Sure, why not?"
Okay.
Because I like to play games with my wife and stuff like that, and a lot of games don't have split screen anymore.
Right.
I think it was Halo 5 is the reason we got it, is because I didn't have Halo 5. Halo 5 didn't have split screen anymore.
Yeah.
And if you buy a game digitally, you can have it on 2 consoles at once. So, yeah, that's why I have 2 Xboxes.
Fuck Halo 5.
I gotta say, you said that earlier. I liked Halo 5. Halo 5 did some really cool things multiplayer-wise.
Multiplayer was good, but that
campaign left some things to be desired. I enjoyed parts of it. I hated parts of it. I will still play the next Halo when it comes out.
I'll probably be dumb enough to do it too.
I'll just say Halo Reach was a long time ago.
It was. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Halo Reach, really, really, really good single player campaign. That was a long time ago, though. All right, so let's get out of here.
I don't know if we want to talk about this right now, but we are coming up to the end of the year, and I've started thinking about it. Like, we're gonna be pretty close up on the Game of the Year stuff. So
I forgot about
that. At some point, we're gonna have to figure out what we're doing with that.
Same thing as last year, right?
This year.
I don't have a problem with that.
I'm saying that look, Bloodborne wins again. Fuck all y'all. Fuck all you hoes.
You know what?
I feel.
Should I buy Bloodborne? Bloodborne's on sale for like $20 right now on PSN, and
it is, and it's like the complete edition.
Yeah, and it's a complete edition. But then, like, I also never finished Dark Souls 3, and I now can play Dark Souls 3 on PC. I start over, but I might just be able to do that.
Yeah, you can play Dark Souls 3 on PC. Yes. I was going to discuss that with you. You can play Dark Souls 3 on PC.
And it's already downloaded on my computer, and it's just like, but I know that I was like 20 hours into that on PS4, so it's like I am going to start over again. But I'll probably do that at some point. I still got to finish Doom anyways.
I mean, look. If you're gonna get into Dark Souls, you kind of just learn that restarting is the entire game. Like, you beat the game and then you restart it, and then you beat it again and then you restart it. And
I will be content to just beat it the once.
I'm on my second run. And the DLC just came out, and I kind of started messing around a little bit with that stuff. Yeah, like that game is really fucking good, and it has taken me a while to relearn my character build at this point. But
so probably why it's probably better off if I just start over anyways, because I probably would. I was in the middle of the swamps. I probably wouldn't have the slightest idea of what I was doing if I continued my PS4 campaign. Anyways, but we need to get out of here. We can discuss at another date what exactly we're going to do for the Game of the Year stuff. I think we do it like we did last year because I think that was really fun. I know other people were less excited about it on this podcast. But 2 out of 3 people, and that overrules the third. If we learned anything from the last Game of the Year episode, so
just gonna mute my look. I think for at least for the Game of the Year, I think maybe I think there's a pretty good contender for that.
Yeah, we probably won't have a discussion. I mean, we'll have a discussion. We probably won't have too much of a fight over that one.
Spoiler,
But also, I don't
it's
think
Overwatch.
I don't think we had that much of a fight over Game of the Year for it was the others, the others running.
Yeah, I was looking at our categories.
Yeah,
and we also never did like write-ups on those categories at all, so it was really tough to find that info.
It's just we just did a podcast. It's all good.
Yeah, that's all we did.
No, I mean, I would in theory say would do the same thing, probably mix up the categories a little bit, but we could discuss that at another time. In the meantime, this episode's been long enough as it is, about 2 hours and 15 minutes or so. So we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. Do you guys?
That's not including the setup time we had. Like that's not including that. Like we've been doing this for like 3 hours at this point.
It's been a while.
Time to go.
So yeah, you can find us as always. Pixelrelated.net is the website. If you want to shoot us any type of feedback, we are at that's Pixelrelated. Feedback at Pixelrelated.
There you go.
Thanks for listening. We will see you next time.
All right.